Okay.
Square is buried deep into the culture of Japan. Originally a spin-off from Masafumi Miyamoto's father's powerline construction firm, for over 30 years its games have helped power the rise of Japanese games development. There are no shortage of games that live under the Square Enix banner, but none as big as Final Fantasy. From our Western perspective, there's an air of mythos around the company. The accepted truth behind the series' title is that it was named Final Fantasy as it was Square's make-or-break game to avoid impending bankruptcy. And even if the real answer has more to do with creating an acronym that could be pronounced by both Eastern and Western audiences, it's that first story that gets told. That's the legacy of this series. Stories about adventures that get passed from generation to generation, as nearby as the arcades of Akihabara and as far as the playgrounds of Europe. As the Final Fantasy series has moved from numeral to numeral, there have been high points and low, but with each new game comes the promise of a new story, a new myth. The story of what happened with Final Fantasy XIV is one such myth. What we know about it comes from old reviews, archived message board threads, and through conversations with those who were there.
That's
the reason
FF11,
for this
right?
is that the original version of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't exist anymore. Unlike the vast majority of other old games, there is no way of playing it. It was redacted, painted over. Where once stood a game that threatened to sink the Final Fantasy brand forever, now stands the second most popular subscription MMO in the world. And as the years pass us, the myth of that original version and its incredible redemption story are at risk of disappearing. How did it all happen? How did the same studio that shipped a broken mess turn it all around in 2 years? Why did they make the decision to keep the old version still alive while secretly working on a brand new game? And how did they manage to make all of this, the redesign and rebirth, part of the game's lore? We knew this was a story worth telling, not only for those who were there to see it all go down, but for the millions of you who have never heard about this, who never knew the extraordinary lengths the development team went to save this game. So
I will say, I'm gonna try to like maybe not pause constantly, but what I will say is that when I started, I heard that 1.0, I heard FF14 failed and that it was a disaster, and that was because of 1.0. And because of this, I didn't want to play the game at all. Like it was Heaven's Word era when I started. And when someone was trying to get me to play, I was like, "Oh, I heard that game was a disaster." Like that's how long that the stigma of it failing lasted. Like even by that point, me, someone who's interested in MMOs, like I was beta testing ESO, I still thought that it had failed, and I didn't know anything about what they'd done to revive the game.
we did just that. Pack your bags, friends. Noclip is heading to Tokyo.
Man, I want to go to Tokyo. I've never been to Japan. Well, outside the airport. Played 1.0 but couldn't get any friends to play with you. I heard 1.0 punished you for playing too much. Is that true? Honestly, this is such a sick trailer. The ARR CGI is so good. You You stop earning XP after a level or two. The hell?
Hello and welcome to Shinjuku, Tokyo, home of Godzilla, restaurants full of dancing robots, and Square Enix, one of the most prolific video game companies in the world. For the past few months I've been playing catch up with this story, playing the latest version of the game, talking to players, and watching community retrospective series like the Speakers Network's fantastic fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV. My goal, to make sure we asked the right questions when we sat down with the team. During our time here in Shinjuku, we're going to talk to everyone from the engineers who worked on the original game, to localization leads, community managers, and even the CEO of the company, all to allow them the opportunity to tell their side of this fascinating story. The fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV happened in real time in front of millions of people around the world, but we wanted to know about this story from an entirely new perspective, from inside the corporate machine that made it happen, that led to its terrible launch and ultimately its incredible rebirth.
How could this happen? How was it so bad?
My name is Michael Christopher Koji Fonks. I am the English localization lead for Final Fantasy XIV. My middle name being Koji. It's not something I gave myself. It's a name my father gave me. My father was stationed in Japan for 2 years in the Navy when he was young.
Turn him up a little.
Went back to the States. My mom had me. They wanted to give me a Japanese name. The family was having none of that, so they kind of snuck it in the middle name. But then they always called me Koji, and so I guess the joke was on the rest of the family. My dad, being in the Navy, didn't really learn a lot about Japan, other than he really liked Japan, but didn't learn any of the language. So I always knew that my name was Japanese, but beyond that, I really didn't know anything about Japan. But there was always that little seed in there. And then when I got into high school, there's a Japanese class, and I like games. Oh, they make games in Japan. Hey, let me study Japanese. If I study Japanese, I can play all those cool Japanese games that never come out over in America. And it kind of just snowballed from there. When I graduated from high school, I took a trip to Japan for 3 weeks, homestay type of thing, and I fell in love with it. And during that period, I got to visit a lot of schools and a lot of English classes in those schools. And I thought, wow, I know English, I could do this, this'll be easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I studied a couple years at a university in America, then transferred over to Japan, started over 4 years at a university in Japan.
Wow.
Got my teaching license, and yeah.
It's hard work being a teacher.
Yes, I mean, I loved it, but I mean, it was very draining, and that's why pretty much after you'd go to school 6 in the morning for morning basketball practice, because I was the basketball coach, because as my principal said, hey, you're tall, you're the basketball coach. Then you'd get into classes. I mean, I'd have my homeroom class, then I'd have 6 or 7
What? He was a
other
basketball
classes,
coach?
teaching. Then you'd have after school, all of a sudden it's, oh, there's after school basketball, and then you'd get home and you'd correct. So I was really, always at school every day. It was very draining, and I would go home and I would play FF11. It was how I was able to relax, and being able to go into my little room and turn off the lights and put on my headphones and get into that world of Vana'diel was something that helped me escape from the stress. And then it just happened to be, one day I was online, checking for 11 related information, and I saw that Square Enix was looking for a translator, and it just kind of, wow, that would be really cool.
Meant to be. Destiny.
Koji wasn't alone. Final Fantasy XIV was launched in 2010, but the story of this game starts 8 years earlier with the launch of Final.
Who is that guy? That is Michael Christopher Koji Fox, the legendary English localization lead for FF14, who is responsible for a ton of the way that we experience through the game, through the way things are translated. He writes a ton of lyrics for many of the songs. He is participating as a vocalist as well in the primals and in some of the songs for the games. He's working very closely with Soken. And he's like, the game would not be what it is without Koji. It's insane that we got somebody like him to work on the game, really. GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Fantasy XI, Square's first MMO, the
Top
early days of
researcher.
online. Many of the team who worked on 14 started on 11. One of those was Kasuga-san, who joined the company in 1999 to build a network infrastructure for this fledgling MMO.
自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので一番最初にやっていたのが、当時プレイステーション2で初めて、厳密にはドリームキャストがその前にあるんですけれども、プレイステーションプラットフォームとしては、オンライン要素が入った初めての時期だったので、プレイステーション2でネットワークを作るために、TCP/IP のドライバーを作ったりとか、まだ当時モデム通信の時代だったんで、PPP 通信とか、あと ADSL がちょうど普及し始めた時期だったんで、ADSL の認証として使われた PPP とかっていうその本当にネットワークの下の部分、今だとあんまし誰も書かないようなところを書くっていう担当で入社してました。
11に関して言うとね、スクエアエニックスって言いますか、スクエアが初めて、
FF11 was the first MMO of that scale in Japan.
本当初めてだったんで、いやもう正直いろんなことがありましたよ当時ね。こんな言っちゃっていいのかな。
Am I allowed to say more? Looks at PR.
いいんだ。まずね、どういうことがあったかというと、あの時はMMO とかね、
There were other predecessors in the overseas market.
基本的に PC ですよね。
On
ところが
PCs
コン
only.
シューマー機でやるなんてもう無謀の極みだとかってね、もうたくさんそういうふうに言われました。ソニーさんがPS2 の
PS2 era.
ハードディスク、
That's a good point, yeah.
もう何台出すんだとかそういうの吸ったもんだしていろんなことがありましたんで、ほとんど不可能だとかでよく言われてましたよ実際には。成功なんて。
11 was my first MMO. I hadn't played one before. I remember purchasing the PlayStation 2 broadband unit because they were all sold out. I ended up paying double on like some Yahoo auction or something like that. Ridiculous, but I had to play it. We got a new internet connection. We were on a regular modem at that time, but because we needed a new modem, we had to upgrade to ISDN 128. But yeah, it was definitely worth it. It was something that was completely new to me, but fascinating. And ever since then, I've been into MMOs. That was the gateway drug for me. Going in from FF11 and then trying some of the Western MMOs as well. Getting into World of Warcraft, seeing the differences between the two.
Personally, I think it's very different. I mean, here in Japan from the Western market because, yeah, it is for everyone in the globe. I mean, it's very first MMORPG on the console, PlayStation 2, and also, I mean, it was the first ever cross-platform MMO between PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360. The obvious one is the most Japanese people don't really like to chat in public.
Right.
So, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of characters, but it's very quiet because people are using a tell instead of the say or shout. And then, but if you go to the Western world, game world, I mean,
Japan? People don't like to talk in public? People aren't talking in public? Scoot the picture up a tiny bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. And this also translates into the game where people don't want to talk and say chat? That's a well-known thing. What? Oh my god. I'm in Limsa right now and somebody was just talking about how horny they are right now. I'm serious. I'm not making that up. I'm completely serious. So it's just different culturally. Like, not only are we talking and we're saying all kinds of stuff that we do not even care other people are listening to. Clear. Oh my god. My phone just about fell out of my pocket.
Every single one is shouting around. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
That's so crazy.
While
I didn't
in the
know
West,
that.
You have your EverQuests and you had your Ultima Onlines. In Japan, there was none of that. And then, so Final Fantasy XI was really one of the first MMOs in Japan. And so getting to work with basically the pioneers of the Japanese MMO, was really exciting. On the other hand, I mean, you could also say that it was possibly kind of a curse, in the sense that they were all, you know, doing their own thing. They had their vision of what an MMO should be and what a Japanese MMO should be. And then me, again, not having played an MMO before, getting on this team and thinking, okay, this is an MMO, and translating away and working in that project, I kind of, you know, started thinking, okay, this is what an MMO is, this is what an MMO is. And then that one day I start playing WoW, and it's like, oh, oh, seeing the differences between the two and saying like, okay, what I thought was the norm in Final Fantasy XI, you know, the grinding for 20 hours to go up one level and then only to have your level drop when you know, pull too many crabs and it kills you and you've lost 5 hours work. Like, I thought that was normal. And then you're like, well, that's not normal, is it? The Japanese base game,
FF11
Final
sounds
Fantasy XI, had
hardcore.
already released. And they were working on the first expansion pack, Rise of the Zeplahq. I was part of the team that was working to get the base game and Rise of Zeplahq all translated before the Japanese Rise of Zeplahq was finished, so we could all release at the same time.
Right. Did you get it on time?
I got it on time. I haven't missed a deadline yet. That's
Wow.
That's one thing I'm proud of.
Final Fantasy XI
Damn.
was a huge success for
Way to
Square
go,
Enix.
Koji.
It established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for years. It was the most profitable Final Fantasy game ever, and at one stage was the 6th most popular game on all of Xbox Live. More than that, it established the Japanese style of MMO. And when the decision was made in 2005 to start work on a sequel, the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful, focused.
Is it fair to say that the Japanese style of MMO means that it's more grindy and more hardcore then? Because I never played FF11. I was coming from World of Warcraft. Way more grindy. FF11 was the hardcore. Mobs would chase you down across a whole map. They don't de-aggro? All MMOs were like this back then.
Like most Final Fantasy games do, on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system. This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11, series veteran Hiromichi Tanaka and Nobuaki Komodo. Final Fantasy XIV was announced for Windows and PlayStation 3 in 2009, but behind the scenes the development team was struggling to put the pieces of its new world together.
ファイナルファンタジー14のその最初のバージョンの、自分が見た時の一番大きな問題点、最終的にそれ
Okay,
が
first
問題
version
だ
of
と
Final
考えているもの
Fantasy
っていうのはその最初のコンセプ
was
ト
that
と
the
して
original
プ
concept
ラン
was
ナ
for
ーがス
game
クリプトを
designers
書くことによって
to write the scripts
ゲー
to
ムを作
create
っ
the
てい
game.
こうで、利点としては、プランナーが考えて自分たちで実装する
An
ので
advantage of utilizing
こう
scripts and that the
高
game
速な開発が
designer
できる要はそうじゃないと基
can
本
write
的に
the
はプランナー
script
さんものを
and
考
it's
えて
executed quickly.
開発者にエンジニアに
You
相
don't
談
have
し
to
て
consult
どう
with
実
an
装するかを決め
engineer
てで
to talk about how the game is
ゲーム
structured.
デザインをする
You don't have to debate
人はそのどういう
on
パ
the
ラメータ
different
をいじりたいかと
parameters
か相談
that
し
have
な
to
が
be
ら
set.
エンジニアと
if a
話をし
script is
て
used.
ものを作っていかなきゃいけないんですけれども、そこの部
The
分に関して
majority
ス
of
ク
the
リ
game
プトを
elements
導
were
入する
built
と
upon the
自
usage
分で
of
考えて
scripts
自分で実現することができるようになるっていう発想でゲ
that
ーム
kind
実
of
装の大半がスクリプトで組まれてたんです、ね、
automate the process.
でそのスクリプト
User interface was affected by this as
そうなんです
well.
けれども
When
ゲ
the
ームも
scripts
UI
are
も基本的
running,
にはスクリプトで書かれていてでスクリプトを動かすエンジン側がかなり負荷が高いというか
it uses a
CPU を
lot
たく
of
さん使わない
CPU
と動かない状態
resources.
になっているんで、ちょっとした何かをす
Usage
る
is
だけでも
extremely
ゲー
high
ム
to
内
run
で
these
少し何か
different
をするだけで
scripts.
も非常に CPU リソースを使うことになっていて
So
す
as
ぐ
we
に
try to execute something in
サーバー
game,
が
it
回る
led to
サイ
the
クルが
servers
遅くなっ
being
ていく
slowed
っていう
down
ことが問題と
because
して
it's
発生
trying
し
to
て
execute these
で
different scripts.
結果としてその
So
サーバ
whatever
ー
we
ででき
try
る
to
とこ
do
ろは少
would
ない
lead
ゲ
to
ー
the
ムとしてサ
slowdown
ー
of
バ
the
ーで実
server.
現できるところは少ないですし
And then the load that was on those
何か
servers
しようとする
was
と
just
負荷
too
が上がっ
heavy.
ちゃうんでじゃあそれを回避するため
We
にどう
cannot
し
do
ようとかって
anything
いうこと
robust
で
or rich
結
in
果
terms
的
of
にそのゲーム内
in-game
容としてリッ
depiction.
チなものが実現できなくなっているってことが起きてます
And
ので
interface
以外も
wise, a lot of
スクリ
it
プト
was
で組
being
まれていたの
executed
で
via a
なんかちょ
script.
っと処理するだけでもすごい時間
So
がか
those
かる
were
って
some
い
of
う
the
ような問題
problems
が発生
that
して
we were facing.
Like I mentioned before.
Why did they choose to do it that way? Instead of a different way? I don't understand that. Why would they use all these scripts if it's causing problems for the CPU? Was there no other way? Faster to make the game. Oh, Okay. Faster pipeline, much faster to have a pre-canned script than write a fresh code. Got it. It was a time crunch to make money for Square. That makes complete sense. Oh my gosh. Okay.
For, again, localization being in a position where we get to see all the parts come together first.
Got it.
We were some of the first to realize that, Houston, we have a problem, that type of situation. I mean, you had the battle team, they're like, yes, we have this great battle system, with stamina and these things that you can do. And then you had this story team, like, yes, we have this story. Oh, hey, we have these guild leads and all of these parts. And everyone was really, really proud of their parts. Look at this grass, it's so beautiful. Look at this barrel, it's the most beautiful barrel ever to be, represented in graphical form.
It's got as many polygons as the character.
Yes, and all of those parts, all of these teams, again, very, very proud of their work. I mean, the team was, put together some of the best minds in Square Enix. You had people that were, leads that could probably even, lead their own projects, were all come together, and it became a lot of just tiny little groups making something that was really great. But once you put it together, it was kind of a mess. And no one really knew that, except for localization and probably QA as well. And we're like, okay, we need to do something. But by then it was one of those, it's kind of too late to do anything. But for us, we would be looking at the text, and some of it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would just be very bland, and thinking, if there's any way to make this game better, what can we do? It's like, well, I can take this text and maybe add some more stuff into it, add some more flavor to it, and maybe that will distract people from the fact that the battle is not fun.
At a fundamental level.
All right, I see. Okay. So Koji has been really chaotic. So from day one. Be like amazing text to distract everyone from the situation.
The piecemeal design of the game was causing problems. Graphics were inconsistent. While many elements of the world were copy and pasted ad nauseum, some environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just confusing. The game didn't have elements fundamental to most modern MMOs, things like jumping, auto attack, and the ability to interact with the map using a mouse. It had a system that nerfed hardcore players to make sure they didn't level up too fast. The UI was confusing, crafting was incredibly complex and took forever, and simply there just wasn't enough content. The closed beta wasn't going well. They needed more time to fix these problems, so the open beta was pushed back to within a month before launch. The team knew there were problems, and they were getting frustrated.
で、今まで話していた
The tasks just discussed were done during January 2010 to the actual release of August.
実際にリリースされる 8月ぐらいまでの間にやっていたことで、ゲームが本当に良くないっていうのが
When we took notice that the game not being good was ultimately when the beta started around August through September, October timing. Then we went into the beta phase. More people started to notice they were having a problem. In actuality, the team's feeling was that before the release, before the beta started, people were questioning whether or not we should even release this game, whether it's at a quality to release it to the world. Of course, not officially, but among developers, they were taking notice of it and deliberating about it.
When 1.0 was getting made, was the mentality that, oh, we're not like, that's like their thing, and we have our very own successful thing over here, we're gonna just make another one of those?
Right, and that's really what it felt like, is that we're gonna continue doing what we did because it succeeded before, why wouldn't it succeed again? And seeing that direction, them taking that direction, and knowing that, having worked on 11, that yes, they were very successful. Seeing the success that they had with Final Fantasy XI, seeing these great creators, creating something that was, revolutionary. But then on the other hand, knowing that what they were doing was, yeah, but maybe that worked 6 or 7 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. And I think there was even one guy on the localization team that got to that point where he just got so frustrated that he just wrote this scathing mail and sent it out to the whole team before telling anyone else on localization he was going to write it. And then we all get it at the same time, the devs team. We're reading it, it's like, wow, this is really terrible. I hope he doesn't, oh, he sent it to the whole team.
Oh my God.
Because he just got really frustrated because he could, to him, I mean, they were being very stubborn. They weren't, you know, they hadn't moved on. Whereas the rest of the world had moved on and adapted, you know, with the release of WoW and what they had done. Whereas, you know, the team here was like, no, we're going to stick with what we know, and that's good enough.
Then start feeling more concerning the situation. I mean, this is not fixed, not fixed, not fixed. Oh, then, oh, you announced the launch date, but it's not fixed. So, but still, some major portion of people are still thinking, still believing, no, it's better, still better phase, last phase, but still better. So it could be, I mean, fixed or changed at the launch timing. So.
Wow.
Kind of went from thinking, okay, this project's going to be great, to, uh-oh, there might be some problems. Can we fix them? Can we fix them? Okay, we can't fix them. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was, yeah, it was a very taxing experience.
Time before Yoshi P. Life before Yoshi P, y'all. It's rough. It's rough.
The team crossed their fingers and hoped that the game's beta problems were simply that, the same issues that most MMOs have, ones that could be fixed with patches once the game entered live operations. And so Final Fantasy XIV Online launched on September 30th, 2010. It sold well its first week, and after a month had over 600,000 players swarming into its world.
He was playing
but it didn't
Dragon
take
Quest.
long for the cracks to appear. The problems in the beta were echoed by new players. The game was sluggish, the servers crashed, and the Eorzeans quickly ran out of things to do. Quests were limited, and the fatigue system even made grinding for XP next to impossible. Critics ate it alive too.
Let's get right down to it. Unless you've got the patience of Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV. Its problems are so vast that I could spend hours talking about
That's
them.
what I
the
heard.
awful interface, the recycled content, the stringent limits on questing, the useless maps, the stupid market ward, these issues and dozens more constantly have you asking that age-old question, what were they thinking?
So, what was it like seeing public reaction?
Yeah, it was
Horrible.
It was very, I mean, very disheartening, because, you know, you'd want to look at those and you'd want to say, no, they don't understand, they don't know, you know, what's going on here, or you know, but deep down, you'd know they were right, and that was what kind of, you know, that dagger in your heart, and it's twisting because, you know, you want to defend what you worked on. I mean, the people that I worked with are the greatest people. I mean, I still, you know, work with a lot of them. I had worked with them before in FF11. I consider them not only coworkers but friends. But, you know, and then you see people online, you know, bashing the work they did, and I know how hard they worked. I know how many hours they put in. I know that, like, in the last 3 or 4 months, people were basically living at work, all putting their 100% into this game that was, you know, destined to kind of crash and burn. But, and then to have people online just say, oh, that sucks, this person is a piece of shit, and or their work is terrible.
I mean, it's something that we always have to remember. Not just for 1.0, but through the Dawn Trail era and now and going forward, right? Like, obviously we're consumers and we absolutely have a responsibility to being honest and sharing constructive feedback, but whenever it crosses over into that, like, this is just shit, like they're like shitting on them and harassing them and just being toxic and not respecting the amount of work that they did do, whether or not you're happy with the result, like, you can see how much this really affected Koji. Like, he's truly heartbroken by that. Damn. Hmm. Gotta, what? Dang. It's just heartbreaking. Okay.
It hurts, but it hurts more because if I was not here and was a user and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
Yeah, I
そう
mean,
ですね。当時はね、私CFO やってたんで見てたんですけ
you
ど
just
も、
gotta
ローン
think
チ
about
でね、やっ
how
ぱり一番
you
大きく違ったの
share
は、
that
11の時
feedback.
のいろいろごたごたねと9の14の時のごたごた一番違うっていうのは、11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけど、ゲー
Despite
ム
the
に関して言う
issues.
と、
Wait, wait, wait. Back up. I missed what he
まあ
said.
当
My
時は
bad.
ね、
Probably would have said the same thing.
そうですね。
At the same time, I was
まあ当時はね、
CFO. At the time, I was CFO. But I did.
CFO やってたんで
I did notice
見
the
てたんですけど
biggest
も、ローンチのタイミン
difference
グやっぱり一番
between
大きく
all the
違ったの
issues
は、
that happened around
11の時
FF11
のいろいろごたごたねと
versus original 1.0 Final
9
Fantasy
の
14
14
was
の
that
時
despite
の
all
ご
the
たごた一番違う
issues
っていうのは、11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけど、ゲームに関して言うと、さすがに相当やっぱ
that
り
were happening
相
with
当やっぱり
11, the game was
受け
still
ファン
received
相当
fairly
や
well.
っぱり評価されたんですよね。で、
Of course, there
ま
were
あ
some
オペレーシ
operational
ョン上のね
issues
トラブルとかっていろいろ
surrounding
多分あるっていうのは、まあこれはあれですけど
FF11, but it was
まあ
kind
大変だ
of
ったんですけれ
expected
ども、
for
それは
those
あったんで
problems
すけ
to
ど、
happen.
ゲーム内容に関して言うと、非
The
常に
game
評価
content itself was
されたと
going
いうふう
well
に
received, and people were
理解してますけれど
accepting,
も、前
and
作
they
の前に
thought
一番やっ
it
ぱ
was okay. But with
私が
FF14,
ちょっとま
the
あまずい
1.0
なと思
version
っ
of
た
it,
のは、やっぱりゲーム自体の評価が非常に
what I
厳しい
felt was problematic was that the game itself
これは
was
ちょっとやっぱ
not
り
regarded very well.
相当大丈夫かなというの
It was
を
actually
まあローン
received
チスタ
very
ート
poorly
で
at and
やっぱり
after
そこは
launch.
非
I
常
really
に
felt that
リア
sort
ル
of
に感じ
reaction.
ましたね。それはそうですね。
So you are
まあ
not too far from the
まあ
launch
しばらく経って、まあそん
of
な
the
に
old
長い時間じゃなかったですね。
FF14.
そうしばらくね
There was
やっぱ
worry
り
and
相当
concern
な
within the company about
このままで
can we
大丈夫なのか
continue
という
doing this?
社内でも相当やっぱり議論ありましたからね。
I mean, the first few months was
Yeah.
just an endless stream of
Thank you. There is a difference between constructive criticism and being an a-hole to the people who worked on it. Absolutely. And I know very well how being emotional about a game and being invested in a game and caring so much, how it can make you maybe not very tactful, but you can always have tact when you share how you feel. You always can.
議論ありましたからね。
I mean, the first few months was just an endless stream of translating apology mails from you know,
Damn.
producers and directors and you know, finding out, trying to figure out different ways of saying we're sorry, because the more you say it, the less weight it has. But Japan being a company or a country where you know people apologize a lot, that's part of the culture. But then trying to translate that, it's like, okay, this is the 10th time I've said sorry in this one post, and then from you know the American myself, it's like, yeah, people are going to look at that as insincere. You know, the more you apologize, the more and then trying to explain that to the team, it's like, no, we have to apologize. Like,
Oh
yes,
my
you have to
God.
apologize, but and it just became we weren't talking about the game anymore. We were talking about how to translate apologies, and it
It
seemed like
sounds
that
so
lasted
stressful.
for,
I'm
a couple
stressed
months.
listening.
Actually, we see a huge drop. I mean, right after the launch timing, we got some good number of the subscribers. Then that fall. I mean, as you can imagine. So I mean, it was failure, and we announced a failure. So we see lots of decline.
まあさっきも話した通り、実際にはその開発内でもその今リリースすべきかっていうかリリースできるクオリティにあるかっていうのは
Oh,
と
wait, hold up.
まあベータ直前話した通り、
And we announced a failure. So we see lots of decline.
まあさっきも話した通り、実
The
際には
devs
その
were already
開発内で
skeptical
も
even at beta,
今リリースすべきかっていうかリリースできるクオリティにあるかっていう
even
のは
pre-beta phase. There
まあ
were
ベータ直
feelings
前
that
と
this
かベータ
game
が
is
始まった
very
のは常に疑
premature.
問はあったので、
It
まあ
shouldn't have been
リリースとして
released
実
to
際
the
に
world
その
at this
た
state.
だ、まあ、それまでにチーム内にあった空気
But
は
before the launch, there was
やは
this
り
sort
出
of
したら
broad
意外と
feeling. Maybe it
受
will
け入れられ
resolve
る可能性
itself.
があるんじゃないかっていうその
What?
漠然としたその
Maybe once it's launched,
出せば
maybe.
どうにかなるのかも
Like
その
a
自分たちが思っ
glimpse
てい
of
るほど悪く
hope.
ないのかもっていうその何の根拠も
We
な
had
い
nothing to back up
希
this
望的なも
feeling.
のがあったんですよ
Oh my
で出
god.
た結果結局
But we were
その
hoping
そ
that
ん
it
な
would
魔
all
法が
work
起きな
out.
くてやはりその
Oh god.
自分たちが感じてる
But
通
the
りに
magic didn't
こ
happen. Once
うまあ
released,
まだ
our
世に出
fears
すに
did
は早い
come
という
true.
か世に出せるクオリティ
It
に
was not ready to be
達
released
し
to
て
the
いない商
world.
品を出してしまったっていう
I
気
think
持ちはみんなにあ
everybody
ったんで
already had
実際
that
にその
worry in their
改善
minds
しなきゃって
somewhere
い
in the
う
back
か
of their head.
根本的に対応しなきゃいけないってい
It
うと
wasn't
ころ
difficult
は
for everybody to
こう
realize
チーム内に割とすぐ
that
広
there
が
is
ったと
some
思っ
kind
て
of
ますなので
fundamental
特
issue
にすごい
that we need
そ
to
んなことは
resolve.
ないっていう意
It
見が
wasn't
すごく
difficult
強
to
くあっ
convince the other
て
team
誰
members
か
that
を
we
説
were
得
running
しなき
into
ゃい
an
けないみ
issue
たいな
here.
ことは特になかったですね。
This is like pure despair. Oh my god.
Today, Square Enix is based across multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company
I knew it was bad, okay? But this is a whole other thing. I didn't realize it was this bad. I feel so bad for Koji. He seems like such a sweet and such a wholesome person, and you can see how much it affected him. Maybe if we believe hard enough, it'll be okay. God. It's so rough.
multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company that is often designing multiple projects at once. And while Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
First game I played was on the Japanese system, family computer. I believe the Nintendo. The original Mario Brothers was the first I played. Up until now as a child, I always thought a TV is something that you look at. But when I first got a chance to play Mario Brothers and got to hold that controller in my hand, I wish I was actually playing this at my friend's house. But being able to move something that's on the TV screen using a controller, it was just shocking to me. Of course, another very impactful video game was the Dragon Quest. It's one of the titles that spread the whole RPG gaming in Japan. It's not about action or the back and forth of numbers. It was very story-driven. That was impactful for me. That kind of prompted me to focus on the RPG genre as well. Of course, the Final Fantasy game that came out the following year, after Dragon Quest, took a more cinematic movie-like approach to depicting these pictures. So those two games, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, are memorable games for me.
Like most Japanese players at the time, Yoshida-san played all the early Final Fantasy games. He holds them in high regard, though he still holds the bitter memory of not being able to save before the last dungeon in Final Fantasy III. But when he was 11 years old, a brand new type of gaming experience arrived at home. His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players.
Whoa, stop. Back up. What do you mean? Yoshi P's first game that he taught himself to code was about breaking into a bank vault. Bunarchy Quest Online? Oh my god.
His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players. Western role-playing games. He fell in love with games like Diablo and was stunned when he first went online and played with other players.
Next year, when my seniors had recommended to me Ultimate Online, I joined the beta. That was my first MMO game. That was the third time I received such a huge shock. This time it's 3,000 people concurrently playing on the same game. That was a big impact to me as well. Ultimate Online, especially in the early days, felt like the freedom was very big. Some players would have the title of Lord and be very gentlemanlike. Sort of community leader type. I created a separate, completely evil character that would kill other players. Hey! What? I played a lot as both. So through Ultima Online, I was able to sort of study what kind of engineering is required for an MMO type game? This is so funny. So then, I think I was playing games on PC as much as I was on console. True gamer. And so I also looked into some FPS games and then some 3D MMOs. EverQuest was one of them. I gotta tell you, it was very difficult to obtain a package of EverQuest in Japan. I would travel to Tokyo on a business trip. I would go to Akihabara and I would search like a zombie trying to find it. Moving from store to store, like, do you have EverQuest? Oh my god! It's Yoshibi trying to fulfill his destiny and find EverQuest. You better pull it out the back and bring it to him right now!
Yoshida-san would embark on a career in games that would eventually see him joining Square Enix to work on the Dragon Quest series. Though he wasn't working on the Final Fantasy team, he was part of the umbrella group that was allocating programmers to various projects. He didn't have granular visibility on FF14, but he knew the team was struggling. I asked from his perspective as a producer where he thought the game's problems were coming from.
This may be at the risk of being cut by corporate PR, but a middleware by the name of Crystal Tools was in the process of being developed company-wide. A lot of really talented programmers were pulled from all different projects and different lines. So many different projects. We're missing our lead programmers, our main programmers. So I feel that's one of the reasons that led to the failure of 1.0 as well. Then, two large points that were involved in that sort of problem. One of the problems was that because Square Enix in the PlayStation 2 generation had produced games that were revolutionary with very high graphic quality and quality gaming experiences also, it was regarded as perhaps on top of the line of the world. But the corporation itself became very arrogant, so to speak. We had that extraneous sort of confidence that, oh, we have the world's #1 graphics. Only we are able to accomplish that kind of quality. I feel that that extremely large success had become a sort of shackle. And I think we had become very arrogant, very prideful. Back then, we had swordsmiths, artisans that make katanas. We compared them to swordsmiths creating katanas one by one, by hand. And they would create world-class quality, but meanwhile, the world developing techniques so that they can cover that sort of tedious manual labor through technology. And so going back to the gaming industry, once PlayStation 3 came out, technology finally caught up, and you're able to cover those tedious tasks through technology. But Square Enix did not change our methods of creating assets. And we didn't have the resources to catch up on the technology to cover for that as well. And then the programmers, we knew that we had an issue that we need to catch up technology-wise. We're wrapped up in creating middleware. Of course, the artists are in that sort of artisan mindset, thinking, oh, I make the world's best graphics. And so it was a very laborious and time-consuming way of creating our assets. I believe that is one of the large problems that we had in terms of the original 1.0. I think it is really interesting that he is talking about the approach to creating game assets is similar to the approach of a swordsmith creating like an absolutely magnificent katana. That's pretty fascinating, because I feel like there is still some tendency to do that with attention to detail on stuff like sound design, things like that. Now, of course, it got to become a problem for the actual CPU, as we know, with that 1.0. But I thought that was a very interesting analogy.
プライドは
Second problem
い
relates
つ
to, of course,
いかな
pride
る
is very
時でもとて
important.
も
But
大
with
切
great
なものだとは
success,
思うんですけど、そこにやっぱ
they
り超
started
巨大な
thinking
成功体験
that
をしたっ
because
てい
they're
う
great,
こと自
they
体が
don't
乗っ
need
か
to
ってき
look
ちゃう
at
と、
other games.
その
So,
自
say
分
for
たちの
example,
作るゲ
with
ー
an
ムこそがベストであって
MMORPG, if you ask
他をあん
anybody
ま
who
り見
knows
る必
what
要がないっていう時期でもあ
MMORPGs,
ったんじゃないかなと思っていて、
what's the most well-known MMORPG that you know? If you asked 100 people,
多分 MMORPG を知ってる人に
I'm sure 100 people will say
世界
World of
最大
Warcraft.
の MMORPG は何ですかって言ったら100人
But
に聞いた
the
ら100人
staff
がワールド・
members
オブ・ウォークラフ
play
トって言ったはず
Warcraft?
なのに
No. None of the people are familiar with that game.
開発チームがこれは
So I gave the example that World of Warcraft, not because I want to talk about whether or
だけの
not
話をしてるんじゃなくてその
the developers knew World of Warcraft or not,
世
but
の
I
中に
just
対して
wanted to
新
point
しい
out
そのビデオゲームをリリースしよ
that
う
we
とす
need
る
to
とき
look
にライバ
at
ルにな
what
るタイ
would
トルは
be
何だ
our
ろうとか
rival and what
ユー
users
ザ
are
ーは今プレイ
experiencing
ヤーはどこにそのゲームエ
in
クスペリ
terms
エ
of
ン
the
スを最
latest
大
gameplay
最新の
experiences.
状態をプレイしてるん
And
だ
I
ろう
felt
っ
it
ていう
was
のを
very
知らないっていうのが
No one was doing the
感覚として
research
僕には結構信じられない
for titles
なんでもっと
outside
みん
of
なゲー
our
ムプレ
own.
イしないのだって
Because
自
you
分
won't
たち
know
が
where
今
you
どの
are
あたりに
unless
い
you
るか
look
分
at
かんな
other
くなっちゃうよ
games.
っていうのが
Even with
まあ
online
言い
games,
たい
Final Fantasy
で
XI,
特に
of course,
14の場合に
there's great
関して
success
は
on that
もち
title
ろん
as
ファイナル
well.
ファンタジー11
But
の
that
超
was actually
巨
based
大
on a
な
lot
成
of the
功体験
developers
っていうの
looking
が
at
邪魔を
EverQuest.
したっていうのもあるとは思うんだけど
And they've thoroughly
あ
looked
の
at
当
it
時
and
は
studied
エヴァ
it
ク
and
エストを
played
徹
it.
底的にプレイをして
And
だ
they
からこそ
applied that sort of
11を
knowledge
作った
to
は
make
ず
11 such
な
a great game.
のに新しいレストランを
It's like if you're trying to open a
オ
new
ープンする
restaurant
と
when
き
you
に
go in
隣
and
に
do
あるレ
absolutely
ストラン
no
が
research
どんなメニューを出していて
on the
どんなサー
surrounding
ビスをしてるかを
competitors
知
and
ら
open
ず
up a
に
new
レ
restaurant.
ストラン作る回転させる人はいないんじゃないって
So, just at the launch stage then of 1.0, what was the feeling within Square Enix? The beta was quite close to launch. Were people anticipating that there would be negative feedback, or were they less aware that that was going to happen, I guess?
僕は他のチームにいてすごくベ
I
ー
was
タ
on a
の評
different
判
team,
が
of
悪いっていう
course.
のは
But I was reading up on the
ネットで
internet that the response to the
ニュースを見て
beta
ま
was
した。
poor. I
ただ
mean, at that time, of course.
多かれ少なかれ
Whenever an
MMORPG
MMO
のローンチは絶対
I
に
know the internet tends
ま
to get
あ
up
荒
in
れやすい
arms.
そうサーバーが落ち
And they
すぐ
try to
落ちると
complain
か
about it.
まあテストストレス
The
テストをや
dev
ってる
team does do
け
server
どプレイヤー
stress
の方
tests.
は遊びたいからやっぱ
But
り
of course, the
サー
player
バー
wants
が
to
落ちる
play
と
it
や
as
っぱり
soon
す
as
ご
they
く
can.
文句を言って当然だと思いますし
So of course it's anticipated
だから
that server crashes and things like
僕
that.
もやっぱり11を作ったチームだから
I wasn't involved in the team.
まあそうは言って
So
も
I was
11
looking
のや
at
っ
it
ぱり
from
完
an
成度が
outside
高いの
perspective.
でそこ
But I
と
was
比
thinking that
較をし
because it's
て
the same team we worked
あ
on
の機能が
11,
ないこの機能がないっていう
I
話
thought it was
を
just the
してるの
consumers
かなって
comparing
い
it
う
to
ふ
the
う
high
に
level completion of
思って
FFXIV.
た僕は僕自身の開発が忙しか
And
っ
so
た
I
の
thought
もあっ
eventually
て
that sort of
ただそ
animosity
れ
would
も
die down.
少しずつ収まっていくんだろうなっていうふうに僕は当時は見てた
But
ただ
coming from an
別の
insider
角度今度は
perspective,
そ
there were
の
apparently a
オリジ
number
ナ
of
ルの
people
14チームの中のその視点としてはこのままだと本当にまずい
within the original dev
もっと時
team
間をかけて
that
品質を上
thought
げな
if
い
we
と
continued moving forward
っていうもちろん声を上げる人たち
with
もい
this,
た
we're in a very
けれど
bad situation.
会社
The company
まあ
Square Enix
全体の判断としては
had turned
ファイ
around.
ナルファンタジー
and
11
told
の
those
スタートも
people
そうだ
that,
った
well,
と
that's how it was for
機能たくさんな
Final
かったし
Fantasy XI's
もの
launch.
すごくネガティブ
We
なフィ
had
ードバック
missing
がたくさん来た
functions
け
that
ど
were a lot of
パ
negative
ッチでどんど
feedback.
ん直していって
But we were
11
able
が
to
完
patch
成
it
した
up
んだ
and
から
fix it.
14も大丈夫
So the company had
最初は
decided to
絶対こうなん
conclude
だ
the
っていう
beta phase and then go into
風に
launch.
判断したのでベータを
This
終
is
わらせ
information
て
that I found
リリー
out
スへ踏み
when
切
I
ったっていう
talked
の
with
が
an
当時
interview
のジャッジだったって
with
僕
the
はチームに入ってから
development
インタビ
staff
ューをしてそれ
after I
を
joined the project.
確認
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. They knew it couldn't continue like this, but Square's just like slap a patch on it after fix it later. God.
したのでチームの中で
There
は
were
やっぱり議
indeed
論はあった
people
そう
within
で
the
すあ
dev
の
team
まま
that
じゃ
did
ダメ
raise
ま
their
ずいっ
voice,
てい
and
う話
we were in a very
ただ
bad
最終
situation.
的なジャッジは
The
今
company had
お話し
ultimately
した通り
decided to move forward
11の時も
anyway.
そうだったでも11だってずっとパッチを続けてああなったじゃ
What
ない
could
か
go wrong?
Eventually, corporate realized that this wasn't usual launch problems, so they called on a few select members of the team
Oh
to
my
create
God.
a task force. This task force would research what changes the game needed and the resources the development environment would require to do the work. Members of that team would talk to Yoshida-san about their worries after
Trust.
hours. His thoughts were that the current organizational structure would need to be modified if the team was going to make the changes required. In October of 2010, Yoshida-san talked to the then Square Enix president Yoichi Wada and suggested they initiate a company-wide emergency to get the team the resources they needed. Wada-san spent a few days talking to the 14 development team about their concerns, and while a lot of the team had suggested that the current task force was in fact up to the task, some members of the 14 team had pleaded to have Yoshida-san join the project to help. And so it transpired that in late November, corporate took the decision to remove Hiromichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komodo from director to lead designer. Both of their vacant positions would be filled by Yoshida-san. At that time, he was leading a team that was working on an original IP for Square Enix. He was disappointed to leave that team, but excited for the opportunity to work on one of the company's crown jewels, a numbered Final Fantasy game. So, he got right to work.
やらなきゃいけないことが当時
I
3つ
believe
あ
there were 3
る
major
と思って
points
て、
I had to
まあ、
accomplish
順番にやってったんですけ
with
ど、
this sort of
まずその
transition.
チームに
Of course, the
チ
first being
まあ
that
オリ
the
ジナル
top
のチーム
level
にトップが
were
変
going
わ
to be
ります。
swapped
で、
out
あと
from the
そ
original
のタス
team.
クフォースメンバー
And
もそ
then
の
that
ま
our
ま
task force
開発コアとして
that was
リード
said
に入ります
was
っていう当
gonna
然
be
話をしなきゃいけない。開発コアとしてリー
sort
ド
of
に
like the
入りますってい
lead.
う当然話をし
There
なきゃ
would
い
be
け
a
ない。
core team that was
全チーム
involved in development.
ただ僕はドラゴンクエ
Because
ス
I was
ト
on
側のゲー
Dragon's
ムを開発
Quest
すること
side,
が多かったの
I
で、
didn't know these
そ
people
の
on the
ほとん
development
どの
team.
スタッフを知らないというか、まあ顔と名前ぐらいは知ってるスタッフはいたけど、その一緒に仕
Of
事した
course,
こと
some of
が
them
あ
I
る
knew
人ほ
their
とんどい
names
なかった
and
ので、
faces, but
ま
I've
ず
not had a chance
セイ
to
ハ
work
を
with those people.
っていう
So I was
とこ
literally
ろから
just saying hello.
で
That was
一
kind of
番
like
は
my
みんな仕
beginning.
事したことがない
I
か
told them
ら
that
どんな仕
because
事を
I
す
have
る人間
not
なの
worked
かを
with
見てくれれ
you,
ばいいよ
so if you
まず
don't like
で
what I do
あ
in my job,
こいつダメだ
you're
って
more
思
than
ったら
welcome to
あの
leave.
チーム抜けて構わないからっていう話を最初
Yoshi P's taken over, and you can like it or you can lump it. Okay, you can absolute Chad. But please give me about 3 months to work together to see what we're
にし
like.
て一緒に仕事してみようでも一回はいいよねってでそれでダメ
Take
だ
in
と思ったら
charge
本当
what
すぐ
you're
抜け
like,
て
what
構
I'm
わないか
like.
ら3ヶ月ぐ
That's
ら
the
い
kind
で
of
一緒にやろ
talk
うよ
I
っていう話
delivered
を
during my speech.
スピーチで
Oh
した
my god,
記憶
I cannot imagine what that speech was like. Like, all right, everybody, listen up. I don't know what the hell you've been doing, but we're gonna turn this shit around. We're gonna throw a huge meteor into the planet. If you don't like it, you can get it.
僕があります
Oh my god.
でまあ
I did mention to
もう
them
一回
that we're gonna take this challenge on one more time.
チャレンジするよまあ当然その時その
At that time,
申請す
we
るな
didn't
ん
have
て話
any
はまだ計画
plans
がな
of
か
a
った
Realm
ので
Reborn just yet, but I did communicate that we're not gonna give up on this
とに
project.
かく立て直しをやるよとギブアップはしないよっていう話
We're
をした
still
時
gonna
に
push through.
僕を知ってる
Oh
何人
yes,
か
I'm
は
gonna go and do this.
よしやるぞっていう人たちと
And some
もう
people
いい
reacted
もう
like,
無理だよ
this
って
is
いう
impossible.
人
You're
たち
putting
と
too much on us.
なんだよ
Or
こ
some
の
people just
急
got
な体制
frustrated
変
because
更
they
って言っ
did
て
not
怒
like
ってる
what was
雰囲気の
going
人
on.
たちとっていうのが
So I
大体
think
の
that was the kind of general reaction that I got.
まあそんな中で今も
There's a team member on the
14
14th
のサウン
sound
ドディレクターやってる
team,
ソケンがまあその
Masayoshi
話をしてる
Soken,
時と大
was
きなホールだ
there
ったん
when
で
I
すけど
did this
2
speech
階の
in
サ
a
ウンドブー
large
スで僕の
hall
マ
to
イ
the
クとチケット
development
がやって
team.
くれてて
Also was in
その
charge
ソ
of
ケンが
adjusting my microphone there. This is such a crazy story. It's such a crazy story now that we have the hindsight of knowing like these are legendary people that would go on to create, you know, Shadowbringers and the Endwalker and stuff that like this.
2階のサウンドブースで僕のマイク
He's
とチケ
sitting over there fixing the mic while everyone in the audience is just like,
ットがやってくれててそのソケンがあいつだ
and
け
when I
ですよや
delivered
り直
that
すぞっ
speech,
ていう
he
か
was
そ
the
の
only
リベン
one
ジ
I
する
can
ぞって
still
言ったら
clearly
ガッツポーズして
remember.
あいつだ
He
け
was
今で
like,
も覚えてる
yes,
2回戦
I'm gonna do it.
ってやってたんであいつ
I saw both reactions.
This is so unhinged. It just sounds really unhinged. Like, no one believes you. Except, for some reason, no one understands Soken. It's everything.
I saw the, oh my god.
おっしゃーってやってたんであいつ
I saw both reactions. I saw the, oh my God, we just went through a year of hell, and now he's asking us to go through a year and a half of hell to this point that might, be another failure, because, no one had taken a game and rebuilt it in this manner before. So basically,
No one had ever
you
done
just have to
this.
trust me, and yeah, you could, waste another year and a half of your life, and it could be a failure, and but you're gonna have to believe me on this one.
Trust.
And so yeah, a lot of people are like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know, and I can understand that, because again, it was a gamble. But
Believe
then on the
it.
other hand, there were, a lot of us, myself included, but a lot of people on the team that were like, no, we worked so hard on this, and we did our jobs the best that we could, but for a lot of reasons, some circumstances that were out of our control, decisions made by higher ups, decisions made by other teams that affected our work, and nothing that we could do about it. But we had put our all into it, and we were invested in the project. We still believed in the project. To have someone from the outside come in, and not just come in to say, okay, forget it, we're just going to do it my way or the highway. He's like, he asked our opinions. He laid out a roadmap. He gave us a vision and a hope. And even though it seemed like it would be difficult to achieve, it didn't seem inconceivable.
Yoshi P knew there was no time to wait. He worked with corporate to make sure the team had time off, both for them to relax, but also to give him time to build his new vision, to do research playing other MMOs, and to help draft his plan, to deliver the vision and how the team was going to do it. They had very little time to fix this game.
This is so insane. Koji thought, like, the most hopeful thought you could have had at that time was, it's not inconceivable. There's a mathematical chance. It's a non-zero chance that we could turn this shit around.
So once they started, the specifications document would have to be watertight, and as captain of the ship, he needed to be able to answer every question the team may have,
This is crazy.
quickly.
Yoshida-san was now at the helm of his first Final Fantasy, and as an avid MMO fan, he was looking forward to getting in there and fixing it. What he couldn't have known at this stage was the scale of the job ahead of him, that no matter how much they patched Final Fantasy XIV online, they couldn't ever fix it. What they'd have to do was something that no developer had ever done, to rebuild an entire MMO while the original version was still running.
Oh my god.
I don't think that they realized immediately that it was something that couldn't be solved via patches. I think they still believe that, if we patch it, it'll be fine. And it wasn't until they reevaluated and then brought in, the new blood. Yoshida-san came in and told them, okay, yeah, this is not something that can be patched. If we want to fix this, we're going to have to take a drastic step.
Yoshida spent 7 weeks researching and returned with 2 options for corporate. It was then he realized that it would be impossible to convert the current game into an MMO that could last the test of time. Ultimately though, this was a decision that corporate had to make. So he returned with not 1, but 2 plans.
Literally, yes. Rebuild the plane in the air. Yes. Yeah. This is so crazy. This is just...
Decision that corporate had to make. So he returned with not 1, but 2 plans. Plan A and Plan B. During this meeting, he explained that Plan A would be to patch the game and make it more playable, but that ultimately the game would never really satisfy players, and though Square Enix may make their money back, the damage to the online brand would be catastrophic. And then there was Plan B.
今のファイナルファンタジー
Plan B
当時オリジナルのファ
Okay. Plan B was apply patches to the current version of Final Fantasy
ファイナル
XIV.
ファンタジー14をパッチを
But
当てて
alongside that,
そのできる限りポジティブに遊べるものにしながら裏で
in the
全く新しい
background,
そ
we
のファイナ
would
ルファンタジ
build
ー
a
14を
completely new
もう一
Final
度作り直すっ
Fantasy
てい
XIV.
うのがプラン B で、
Oh my
ま
god.
あその
This is
そ
so
の話
crazy.
だけを聞くと、まあ、
So this plan is essentially we'll build a new plane inside the plane while we're in it. You really, like, I feel like you have to be a little crazy to decide that you're gonna do this.
プラン B でまあその話だけを
Plan
聞くと
B.
まあそんなバ
Of
カなっ
course,
て
just
なるの
listen to
で
those
当
two
然
options.
どうやってそれを
Corporate
達
would
成
have
す
been
るか
like, what are you
チーム
talking
を
about? Trying to divide
二
up
つに
your
分けて
team?
でどういった
But I
そ
told
の
him
マネジメ
also
ント
because
スタイルでそ
we
れを
had
やるの
promised
か
our fans we'd
で
release a
大体
PS3 version.
発売時期はプレイステーション3版をリリースするっていうのが
We would need to launch
プレイヤー
this
との約束だったの
within
で
the life cycle of
プ
the
レイステーション
PS3.
3の寿命が来る前にリリースしなきゃ
So
いけ
we
ない
wanted
の
to
で
get the game out, if
2012
not
年
by
の
the end
末
of
から
2012.
2013年
But
中には
sometime within
絶対リリース
2013.
できる
Of
この
course,
計画
there
であ
was
れ
a
ば
very
っていう
high
プレゼン
risk,
テーシ
and
ョ
we've
ンをして
never done it before in the
リス
games
クは高い
industry.
ただ
And
当
on
然そ
top
ん
of
なこと
that,
をした
releasing it under
こ
the
とは
same
ない
title.
しゲーム業界でしかも同じタイトルで作り直してるから成功うまくいった
But
と
I
しても
think
成
at
功するかど
least
うか
by
は分から
taking
ない
on this
ただ
challenge,
少なくとも
we'd get
やっぱり
the
ファイナルファ
fans
ンタ
to
ジーって
realize
クレイ
that
ジーだ
Final
ねとか
Fantasy's doing
すごいこと
something
するね
crazy
と
again
か
or something really
少な
great.
くとも自分たちがミスしたこと
Oh my god, dude. Are you serious? You thought, oh, everyone's gonna see how crazy this is, and that'll get their attention after what's happened. They'll see our effort in trying to regain their
を
trust
認めて
and trying to
信
make
頼を取り
good on
戻
the
そうと
damage
したっていう努
caused
力は
to the
見
franchise.
てくれてる人は多分見て
That
くれ
was
る
my
だろう
presentation at
だ
corporate.
からどっちをチョイスする
And
か
I was
は
gonna leave it up to
会社
them
に
to
任せる
decide
ただ
option
どっ
A.
ちであっても全
or
力でやるよ
option
っていう
B.
話をプレゼンテーションし
Of
て
course, as you may
まあ
already
結
be
果的
aware,
にはね
corporate
プラン B で
did
って言っ
choose
てくれたん
option
で
B. Here
今
we
こう
are
なってます
today.
けど
This is so crazy. This story is
Final Fantasy
insane.
XIV 1.0 was in a state of disarray. Square Enix had decided to suspend subscriptions to help ease the negativity around the game, while the PS3 version was indefinitely postponed. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work tirelessly on not one, but 2 MMOs, patching the original 1.0 to fans' expectations, while secretly working on a brand new version of Final Fantasy XIV. In our next episode, we focus on that 2-year period and tell the incredible story of the falling moon of Dalamud, the death of 1.0, and the birth of a new Eorzea.
Wow. Insane. Well, that's just part 1, so we're gonna watch the next part. Next. I just can't get this image out of my mind of Yoshi P giving this insane speech to all these exhausted devs who are in the depths of despair after what has transpired. He's trying to give this speech like, we can fix it. No one believes him. Not even Koji really thinks that. Koji's like, it's not inconceivable. But then you have Soken there on the mic, adjusting the mic settings. Little do we know, he's gonna be like one of the greatest, most legendary video game composers of all time. Wow, this is insane. It's like an anime. This is like an anime origin story. Wow, I'm shaking right now. Okay, next part. Next part. It's so inspiring. Okay, next part. Part 2. Are we ready for part 2? Chat, is it time maybe take a little break before part 2 starts? What do you think? I watched this with my wife and older brother before we decided to play for the first time. We all never look back. This is like watching the Mona Lisa being painted. It is Julios, and that's not even an exaggeration. He really went into the Square Enix office with Naruto energy and said, believe it. This is insane. I can't believe this. This is why you've been telling me to watch this for all these years. Wow. Absolutely astonishing effort. Can't believe he started off with a game about robbing banks and then went off. It's clear that he has a passion for game development, though. Like, that was his first thing that he did with the computer, where he was teaching himself how to code and how to create a game. Like, creating games is just like, it's like, it's his destiny. It's what he's supposed to be doing. This is such a cool story. Same with Koji's story and hearing about where Koji came from. Koji was, always had this love for Japan and learned Japanese and wanted to be involved in games, and then fell in love with MMOs and understands like how important it is to have that MMO to return to and be that comfort for you when you're stressed in your life. And that was his like entry into MMOs. And it just so happened that he ends up working on the team. Wow. This is crazy. Let's see the next part. Wait. Yeah. I think we're ready for the next part. Will off tanks not be able to maintain? Off tanks will definitely be able to maintain. Yeah. I wouldn't take the off tank main tank terminology too seriously. Koji's mom is Japanese, though, so he would naturally have a connection, right? Yeah. Koji's such a cool name, too. It's a really cool name. We should learn Japanese, chat. Let's learn Japanese, chat. Alright, are you ready? Let's go, let's go.
So what did you think from your perspective as CFO to fix this problem? It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to involve creating a new game. It's going to involve keeping the other game still running. Did you think at that time that that was a solid investment, that that's what Square Enix should be doing, or did you think that it was a risky venture?
Of course, just looking at that particular facet of having to make a game, it's definitely risky. But considering this is a numbered Final Fantasy title, one of our flagship titles, continuing to allow service of such a poorly received game, I feel that would have been a larger issue. It would cause big damage to us as well. We believe the investment to remake this game, or to revamp this game. Something that was required, of course. And it was very risky. But I believe it was something that was required for us to do. Yeah. Yeah. Rewriting history.
Hello and welcome back to our series on the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV Online. We rejoin Yoshida-san and the team at Square Enix at the start of a long adventure, and with players leaving en masse and the clock ticking, it was time for them to formulate a plan. But how exactly do you rebuild an MMO while people are still playing it?
Yoshida-san set his eyes on a 2013 launch date for the new version of 14, as he wanted to have the game out for fans within the PlayStation 3's lifecycle. But to do this while still patching 1.0, he would have to create an entirely new MMO in less than half the time of most conservative estimates. So before we get into specifics of what exactly was changed, I wanted to know how he did it. So for a moment, we step away from game design and dive into a critically important aspect of video games development that we rarely talk about: project management.
Designing an MMO must, I just imagine the timeline for something like this is at least 5 years.
for anything, and you're being asked to do it in less than half of that probably. When you're designing games, when we talk to people, so much of it is iterative, that you create something and then you refine it and you brush it and then you look at it again, but you didn't have that luxury. You had to make sure that the version of A Realm Reborn that was coming out at that date was the final package. So did that change the way that you had to set up the team and the way your workflow kind of went?
You said it should take about 5 years to design an MMO. I want you to really emphasize that. In order to reduce the risk of any sort of schedule trouble, there were some tweaks that I put into managing the staff members that I had. This is kind of difficult to put it well, but you don't have those 1 in 100 type of programmers so much. And we did need to make a whole lot of assets in a very short amount of time. And so we had to match it to the average skill level, so to speak. And try to lower the chances of risk happening. I have a little bit more to say. It's really interesting. It's almost like thinking of people on the team the same way that you think about players in the game. Like you think about the different skill levels and you think about what kind of a thing can you give them that will keep everything on track, right? This like interesting mentality crossover there. I have a little bit more to say. So what I did in order to make this more visible is say, for example, we were creating a job. It's a raid strategy. Let's say the Dragoon job. At first glance, you might think it's just one single task to create the Dragoon job, but it's not. Wait, isn't that Kurthus? When it was green and stuff? Because of course you have the job, but you have the different actions that are assigned to that particular job. So you would need programming for a single job action. So we'd figured out how much time it takes to do that. In order to do that, you'd need the specification documents. So take a look at the task of creating a specification document. It's 2 hours to create. Then a request for review is sent to me. My review takes about 15 minutes. We went through everything thoroughly. That is a level of detail. We went into adding visibility into our tasks. We boiled it down to the absolute minimum task element to manage our workload. So I think by doing that, staff members may have been a little bit stressed because of seeing all of that, but that's how I started to break it down. So once I broke it down to every single little task, I had staff members assess how long it would take for them to do the single minimum task. When you can say, if I finish the task in this time, I would reward myself. Then the other extreme, if it takes me longer than this to finish my task, I'd be ashamed to be accepting pay, sort of a worst case scenario. I had each staff member assess the minimum and maximum time, take them to complete particular tasks, and I would have them report these things. Then I would take the average time it would take, looking at those numbers, and then that's the number I would base my sort of scheduling off of. So it's like a very minimal task, micromanaging that aspect of it. So I did that on a weekly basis at first, and my staff members would get used to that system, and once we go through the work week, I'll see the results. Same. Like every time they report something, I can start seeing individual parameters. Like say, for example, Yoshida reported the minimum amount of time each time, but when you look at the actual results, it's leaning more towards the maximum amount. So when I would go back in and take the average amount, I wouldn't literally take the 50% amount. I know this person leads more to the maximum side, so I'd add that to the estimate for the following week. So I'd take a look at that for all my staff members and get a personal snapshot from my staff. Wow! That is crazy. looking how long it actually takes the devs to do the task and like checking that week by week so you know exactly how much time you need, how much time you have. That's interesting. So the number of work hours per day, I mean, typically we would think 8
8
hours.
時間ではありますけど、トイレに行ったりっていう時間も必要だし、
But you would need to
あと必ず
factor in
ミーティング
bathroom breaks and different meetings.
会議室でのミーティングじゃなかったと
And
し
this
ても
is not
スタッ
only
フと
meetings
主要
that
な
would
打ち合わ
take
せを
place
絶
in a
対に
conference room
デスク
when you're
というデ
talking
ス
with
ク
your
で
teammates
フェイス
desk
と
to
やるこ
desk
ともある
about
と思う
certain
ので、
specifications.
一
I
日
would
の稼
count
働
that
6
as
時
a
間って
meeting
計
as
算
well.
し
I
ました。
calculated each
全員
workday
6時間、8時間では見ない。
contains 6 working hours,
で
so
大
we
体慣
did
れてき
that
たらそれ
for
を
all.
2週間スプリン
Once
ト
we
に
got used to
変え
it,
て、
we would
あと
extend
は
the
毎
period
朝
that I was
必ず
doing the
スタンダップミ
calculation.
ーティングをしてそれぞれのセク
We
ショ
went
ンで
weekly to
自
to
分のタス
bi-weekly.
クが今どう
And
なってる
also, I would make
誰
sure
か
to
の
do a
タスクが
stand-up
遅れて
meeting
るせいで自分のタスクに取り
on
掛かれない
every
という
morning
のは
report
毎朝
on the
ス
status
タンダ
of
ッ
where
プミ
you
ーティン
are.
グをして
And then, if there are any
で
outstanding
はこのタ
tests
スク
from
を
the
入れ替えてこっ
cross-functional
ちを先にやっ
teams
てくれ
that's
ないと
stopping
こ
your
の人が
work
困
from
ってしまうから
progressing, we would have to have that
全部
identified
毎
as
朝
well. That's what we'd report on a daily
だから
basis.
スクラムのスク
Kind
ラ
of
ムっ
like
てい
the
うその
Scrum method,
マネ
a
ジメン
little
ト手
bit
法の
modified,
ちょっと変
but
形
very
型
similar
です
to that sort of management
た
style.
だ最後に言っときますけどこ
This
の
sort of micromanagement style, I would not recommend it at all. I'm- This sounds so wrong. This is what they had to do to get this shit done in half the time that it would normally take. Obviously not. It's not very nice. You take your pee break in 5 minutes. You in 10. You over there in the corner? After we close.
マイクロマネージメント普通じゃないので
Not
おす
great.
すめしないで
It's
すよ
only because we're
あの
trying to recreate an MMO in less
2
than
年
2
弱で
years.
MMORPG を作る逆
I
に言
would
うとスタッ
not,
フ
I would
も
have to convince my
2
staff
年
members saying
かからず
it's
終わ
not
る
going to be
から
more
こ
than
の
2 years.
マネージメントだから今は我慢してって言ってやってもらったものな
Like
ので
this.
あの一
I
般的に
really
は絶対お
strongly
すすめ
do
しない
not
です
recommend
細かすぎます
I mean, anyone can come in and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna rebuild
God.
the game. Follow me." But he came in with, this huge Excel that had all of these lists of everything on it. What we're gonna do here, what we're gonna do here. This is when we're gonna do them by, and this is what we're gonna do here. And to see that, it's like, okay, this isn't just a stopgap type of thing where a president's like, okay, crazy here, let's just change the leader and hopefully things will, get better. It was an actual, okay, this guy really wants to do this. He has this plan.
Yoshida had them running like a well-oiled machine, so it was time to get to work. First things first, they had to start the rollout of patches for 1.0, but a critical part of the failure of the first game was the poor communications the development team had with their community. So to keep diehard fans on board during this protracted period of redevelopment, they had to be a lot more transparent.
What we explained to players very first is it was failure. Failure. So we need to restart the game. But we at that timing we didn't announce the. Relaunch. When Reborn is not announced, but we are going to fix this game. We need more communication. So just list all the changes, plan changes. So some, upper management people doesn't like this because if you show this to the players, player knows what we will do. So, after that, you did this, but you didn't do this, you didn't this. Yeah, everyone can check that. So, some people doesn't really like that way. But when Yoshida-san and myself are discussing how we deal with the community, but what we need to do is to establish the trust.
確かに、今の14のそのユーザー
Of
ベー
course, if
ス
you
か
look
ら
at
見れ
the number
ば
of
当時の
players
ユーザーベ
Final
ース
Fantasy
はも
XIV
の
has
すごい
now,
小さかったと
they seem like a
今
small
と比較
amount
す
of
る
people.
た
But
だ
back then,
まあ
this was 9 years ago that this came out. By the way, I think this was after Stormblood came out. But back then, a lot of
も
media
のす
and
ごい小
players
さかったと思う。今と比較すれば。ただ、メディアの
were
皆さんから
bashing
も
Final
そのプレイヤ
Fantasy
ーからも
14. They were saying Final
その
Fantasy is
Final Fantasy
done
14はもうダメだ。
and over with.
むしろ
And they would
なんであんな
criticize the
ダメなゲ
people
ーム
who
遊んで
stayed
る
with
君
us.
たち
They'd
どう
say,
かしてるんじゃ
why
ない
would you
の
play
って
such a game?
言われながらも
The people who did
いや
stay
ファイナルファ
with
ンタ
that
ジーシ
fan
リーズ
base,
だから絶対
these
な
are
ん
the
とかして
people
く
who
れる
said,
は
well, it's Final Fantasy 14.
ずいや
They're going to do
こ
something
れはこ
about
れで
it.
僕らは
I
楽しん
still
でるから
enjoy
ほっとい
playing
て
the
くれ
game regardless. Leave us alone.
その 11だって
They
最初の
mentioned that
頃はいろいろあっ
11
たけど
had a lot of troubles at
きっ
first,
と良くなるはずって言っ
but
て
they believe that things will
数
get
は
better, so they
もちろ
continue
ん
playing
今
it.
と比較したらすごく小さいそ
Numbers
の
wise,
コミュニティ
yes,
だったか
may
もしれ
seem
ないけ
small,
ど
but those
誰よりも
are
ス
the
クエア
very
エニッ
people
ク
who
ス
supported
や
Square
ファイナル
Enix
ファン
and
タ
Final
ジー
Fantasy
のこと
throughout
を
all
応援して
this.
くれている
So
人
if
た
we
ちだった
ignored
んで
them,
こ
I
の
thought
人た
Final
ちを
Fantasy would
無視
probably
す
be
るんだと多分この先もうファイナルファンタジーはダメだろうと思ってた
above
ので
anything else.
むしろ何よ
We
りも
had to
大切
treat
に
this
しなきゃいけ
element
ない
as
部分だっ
most
ていうの
important.
が最も大きい理
That
由
was the biggest reason.
それは
It's
何
a
億円
trust
使おうが
that we've had to
回収でき
get
ない
back
後
from
で
those
コス
people
ト
who
だと思う
stuck
の
with
で
us throughout the
信頼って
years.
そういうことなのかなっていうふう
Didn't
に
matter if we spent millions of
会社にもプ
dollars.
レゼン
It's
テ
a
ーションしま
cost
したし
spent for something
僕もそう思って
we
たから
wouldn't have been
まあ
able
続
to
け
repair later.
ました
I believe that is
あ
what
ともう
trust
一つやっ
is.
ぱり大きな
So
ポイン
that's
ト
what I
は
felt was
本当に
important
ファイナル
about
ファンタジー
continuing
14がリバンプして
to patch the 1.8
その大
series.
逆転
And that's
す
what I
るため
explained
に
to the
は
corporation
絶
as
対
well.
に彼らの
We
力
needed
が
their
必要だ
help.
って
We
い
needed
う
them to
こ
be
と
on
も
our
もう
side.
一つ重要な意味を持っていると考えてました
Next, Yoshida split his team in half, some working on the new version of 14 and others working on the updates to 1.0, what he
Insane.
called the guts version of the game. But with so much of the game requiring fixing, where do you even start?
まず
First
一
of
番
all,
最
I
初に
think
や
I
らなきゃ
wanted
い
the
けないと思った
interface to be
のはインタ
playable.
ーフェース
Okay, so basically what ended up happening is first you said it will be plan A or plan B. But in the end, we do plan A and plan B. We decided to just do both plans at the same time.
そうとにかくなんて言うんだろうな最低限遊べるように正直本当申し訳ない話なんですけど僕最初にやっぱりオリジナルの14触った時にインターフェースがあまりにもなんだろうひどすぎて
Okay, back up. A little bit. To clarify something, I noticed that there was confusion about how they were estimating how much time it would take each dev to create a task for the scheduling for the project management time estimation exercise. So he wasn't literally saying to them, how long would it take you for you to not want to accept payment for your work? That is not what that meant. He was saying, at what point would you feel bad that it took you that long to make it? To establish what's the upper bound of like crazy amount of time this particular task would take versus what's the minimum amount of time so that they could come up with kind of an estimate. So I wouldn't go crazy about that comment that was made because that would be not correct. The other thing is that Yoshi will be remembered and analyzed for his ability to herd cats to the absolute limit. True. CJ's Twitch, yes, we are here watching the Noclip documentary for those of y'all who are just coming in now. This is a legendary documentary, and I can finally see why, about the story of Final Fantasy XIV that crashed and burned and was an absolute dumpster fire on release. And that it's just insane that it even was able to be released in that state. But then Yoshi P coming in with a plan and a frankly unhinged dream and deciding that he was going to save the game. And this is the story of how that's happened. So this is absolutely fascinating. Hi, Yanto Toro. We are not looking at any spoilers at all. This is just a story about how Yoshi P saved Final Fantasy XIV and how this happened. It is never... This is like brand new territory in gaming. And it's really very, very interesting.
Requiring fixing, where do you even start?
まず一番最初にやらなきゃいけないと思ったのは
It is called the Final Fantasy XIV Noclip documentary. First of all, I think I wanted the interface to be
インタ
playable.
ーフェースをとにかく
I'm sorry to say this, but the first time I touched Final Fantasy XIV was just awful.
正直本当申し訳ない話なんですけど僕最初にやっぱりオリジナ
I
ルの
could not
14
play,
触った時
literally.
に
This is supposed to
インター
have
フェースがあ
been
まりにも
only on the
なんだろうひ
PC,
どすぎて話にならない
but it was required for you to have a game
だって
controller.
PC バージョンしか出てないのにゲームパッドがないとまともに遊べない 聞いた
It
ことが
was
ないそんな
ridiculous
楽しいゲー
not
ム
being able to play with a
マウ
mouse
ス
and
キーボードで
keyboard.
まともに遊べないゲームなんか
So
見た
no
ことが
matter
なか
how
ったの
much
で
content or jobs we created for the
いくら
game,
その
if the interface won't allow you to get there,
ジョブを
people
作ろ
won't
う
be
が
able to enjoy it.
インターフェースがダメだったらコン
People
テ
would
ンツ
quit
の
the game
面白さ
altogether.
に到達する前に人
So
はゲー
did
ムを
want
やめてしまうので
To take the time, first
と
and
にかくインター
foremost,
フェ
to
ー
be
スを
very
直さない
thorough
とゲームにならないっていうふうに考えたので一番最初に
about
そう
repairing the
丁寧
interface
に取り掛かったの
and
は
make it
やっぱりイ
playable.
ンターフェースの改修っていうところですね僕最初にプレイした時
The first
5
time
分ぐら
we
いでやめ
touched
ちゃい
the
ました
game, I quit in about 5
でもね
minutes.
笑い話
I
で
think this is
クイッ
really
トの仕
silly.
方が分からなくて
But I didn't know
Window
how to quit. I
右上
didn't
に
know
あ
what
る
to do, so I tried to go to
×ボ
the
タン
top
を
right
押そうとしたんです
corner.
よで押したら
You see the X button,
こ
and
の
I
まま
clicked it,
ゲ
and
ー
a
ムを終
dialogue
了する
pops up
と
saying,
データがセーブされない
You quit.
可能性
Your
があります
progress might
それ
not
で
be
もよろしいですかってダイアログが出るのねいやいやよくないでしょ
Of course,
いや僕
I'm
は
an
エンジ
engineer,
ニアだから
and I
サー
understand
バ
that
ー
it
に常
is
に書き込ん
constantly
でるからそん
overriding
なわ
your
けないじゃん
progress
っ
to
て
the
思ってる
server.
んですけど
It's
万
supposed
が
to
一
be
のこ
some
とがあ
kind
る
of
から多分出てるん
disclaimer
ですよそのダイアログ
for those
でも
rare cases that a
意味がわか
save
らない
might fail.
でそうなると
I mean,
もう
it's
怖くて押せ
unbelievable
ない
that
ですよ
dialogue popping up there.
なんだこれ
People were scared to quit the
で
game.
ノーって押すと
If you click
また
no,
ゲームにいるわけ
you're
でしょ
going
X を
go
押すダイ
back
ア
to
ロ
the
グで
game
しょ
screen, press X,
どうやって
dialogue
クイッ
pops
ト
up
すんだよこ
again.
のゲーム
How am I supposed to
Interface
quit this
isn't
game?
sexy. It's not something you tend to hear a lot about in video games coverage because
Oh my
really,
God.
when it's done correctly, you're not supposed to notice it. So, when the early patches for the game concentrated on interface and quality of life updates, much of the community began to get frustrated. The team needed to fix it quickly, so Yoshida employed the help of a Square veteran, one of the developers, on that original 1.0 task force.
はい、皆川博と申します。
UI
ファイナルファンタジ
leader
ー14ではユーザーインターフェースの、設計デザインと
Visual
あ
aspect
とアート的なビジュアルの方も担当しています。よろしくお願いします。今47
I'm
歳なんですけ
47 years
ど
old
も、
right now.
25
Joined
の
the
時
company
に
when I was
入
25.
社したので、もう22年経ちます。
22 years ago now.
当時はまだスクエア
When
エ
it
ニッ
was
クス
still
がスク
Square.
エアという会社だったので、ですね、ファ
I
イナル
first
ファンタジ
worked
ー
on
タ
Final
クティ
Fantasy
クス
Tactics.
の
I was the
アー
art
トディレク
director
ター
on that
を
game.
していました。なので普段は少
For
な
a
い情
standalone
報、
game,
なるべく少ない
I
情
would
報
consider
や
less information on
シンプル
screen,
な表示を心がけているんですけれ
something
ども、
more simple and
今回
streamlined.
は
But with
カスタ
FF14,
マイズ性とい
I
う
had to
か、
consider
より
more
ツール
about
的な考え
customization.
方で、いろんなプレイヤーがそれぞれ自分の好きなカスタマイズができるようにっていうことを普段より
Letting
も
the
強
player
く
customize it as
して
they
い
like.
ます。まあ、
Right.
やはりバトル
For the
が
battles
テンポの
in Final
スピーディ
Fantasy
ーなテンポの
14
ゲームなの
move
で、
at a relatively speedy tempo.
カーソルフォーカスを
So I did believe
十字キー
your
で動かしながら決定するっていう、まあそういう操作性ではちょっとゲームにならない
it
だ
was
ろう
not
と
the
いう
best
ところがあった
method for
ので、
control. I'm
ま
going
あ
to
かな
implement
り
a
最初
cross
の頃
hotbar
に
to
クロスホッ
select
ト
a
バー
different
とい
one.
うアクションを選択するインターフェースを考えたんですけれども、ただ
The system I'm
この
familiar
イ
with
ンターフェース
because I've
自
been
体
creating
は
very similar systems.
割と昔から他のゲームで自分自身作ったり
On other games
使ったりしていた
that I had
ものだ
worked
ったの
on
で、
and was
絶対それ
utilizing
で
it.
いけるだろうなという思いはありました。な
So
の
I
で
didn't feel like it was
実は
too
そこはあ
difficult
ま
of a
り苦労
challenge.
していなかったりします。まあ例えば
We
表
changed
現
the
方
way
法が
something
変
is
わる
displayed on
と
screen there.
必ずそ
Of course,
の
people will notice.
僕はこっちの方が良かったっていう話
It was
が
such
来るんですね。
and such
例えば
previously,
イン
but
ベン
now
ト
it's
リーは
this.
以前はテキストで
For
表示さ
example,
れていたんで
inventory
すけれども、
used to be
アイコン
listed
に
in
なると
text.
当然そ
But
の
once it becomes
なんか
icons,
似ていて
people
よくわから
complain
な
that,
いとか、
oh, I don't know what
な
it
ので
is.
両方欲しいっていう
Which item
話
is
は
what?
受けて両方作るのは大変なんだよな
Can we both a text
そう
listing
いう
and
と
an
ころ
icon?
がありました。
It's kind of difficult to do both.
まあ今でも ARR
The list of
の
outstanding
リリ
items
ー
we've had
ス
since
か
the
ら
release of A
そ
Realm
の
Reborn.
積み残しの仕事リストみたいなの
Some of these items get
あるんですけれども、
implemented even over 2
まあ
years after the launch.
2年以上経って今入るみたいな機能もたまにあったりします。
でもう一つは
Next
バト
item
ル
I
システ
felt
ムを
really
とに
needed
かく
revision
変更
was
し
the
な
battle
いと
system.
コンテンツが作れない。つまり
If you don't have a
あまり
properly
良くな
working
い
battle
バトルシステ
system,
ム
you
を
won't be able
ベ
to
ース
make
にして
content.
コンテ テンツを作ったとしてもコンテンツが面白くならない。だから順番としてはインターフ
Revising the
ェースを修
interface
正
is
しなが
number
ら
one.
バト
And
ル
then
シ
the
ステ
battle
ムを変
system.
更して、
And
やっ
then
と
came
その先に
content.
コンテンツを作るっていうのが、まあ
I think that was the proper order that I wanted to tackle them.
当時のバトルシステム
The
も
party system back
当時
then,
は15人
you'd
で
have
パー
been
ティー
able
が
to make a
組め
party
た
with 15
でしか
people.
も
On top of that, the magic points
マ
are
ジックポイント
MP.
MP の管理
There wasn't a
って
way
い
to
うものは
manage it.
ほぼなかったの
So the
で
healer would cast the strongest
当
cure
時の
spell, Kiraga or
14
Cure
の中
3,
で最強の回復魔法だったケアルガーっていう
no matter how many times it would cost
ず
that
っ
your
と連打
MP
してて
didn't
も
fall to zero.
MP がゼロにならない。永遠ケアルガーして OK
Just spamming.
で他の魔法いらないよ
So
ねじゃあ
why do you need any other spell?
とにかく当時は
It's
15
basically
人で
15 people in a party
一つ
trying
の
to beat a
モンスター
monster.
を殴りまく
Casting
って回復し
all
まく
the
って
healing
っていう
spells.
すごい大雑把なゲ
It
ームだ
was
った
just
の
really
で
rough.
これを
very
戦
rough.
略的な
I
バ
want
ト
to
ル
make
シス
sure
テ
that
ム
it was changed into
計算
something
式に
more
変えていか
strategic
ないと
with calculations, or else this content won't be interesting.
だから UI を直しながら
While I
バトル
was
システム
trying to
を
go
変
through
更
and
して
revise my interface, I
で
also
それら
tried と
の
make
準備をし
sure
ながら最も重要だと思ってたのは
the battle
ファイ
system
ナル
as
ファン
well.
タジーエレメント
I wanted to
っていうものを
implement
と
more
にか
Final
く入れて
Fantasy
いくこと
elements in the game.
っていうのが次のというか最も大きな課
There
題だ
was
って
no
いうふうに
specific jobs.
思ってました。なぜ
There
なら
was no
当時
paladin.
ジョブもな
What?
かった。ナイトもいない。ブラックメイジもいない。
There was no
ホワイ
black
トメイ
mage
ジ
or
も
white
これは
mage?
ファイナルファンタジーな
You
の。
couldn't ride chocobos?
チョコボに乗れるわけでもないし。
What?
イフリートは出てきてるけ
It
ど戦
Freed
え
made
ない
its
し。
appearance, but you
一体何
couldn't
なんだ
fight
この
it.
ゲーム
What
だ
was
から
going
僕ら
on?
がコンテンツ
So I
として
felt that what we needed to
入
do
れ
was
て
to
いかな
first
きゃいけなかった
include
の
those
はやっぱ
elements.
りイフリートやその
A Freed
ガル
Garuda.
ダ
What would you call a
いわゆる
summon?
召喚獣って一般的に呼ばれて
Felt
るもの
that
とのボスバト
really
ルを
needed
入
to
れていか
implement
なきゃい
those
けな
as
いと
the
思った
boss
し
battles.
チョコボに
Of course,
乗れない
chocobos.
なん
This
て
is an
MMO
MMO.
なの
Gotta be able to ride a
話にならない
chocobo.
からチョコボにちゃんと乗れるようにしなきゃいけないし何よりジョブが
Then
ない
the
のも
job system
FF
as
じゃない
well. There weren't
少なくと
specific
も僕は
jobs.
FF だと思わないので
And I identify Final Fantasy with the job system, so it had to be in there. I was trying to revise and revamp the
でもそれもやっ
interface
ぱりさっ
and
き
the
言ったよ
battle
うにインターフェース
system.
とバトルシステムが直ってなければ
Lay the foundation for
いい
these
ものにはなら
elements
な
to
い
be
ので
implemented.
まあだか
I
ら
was
回
going
収を
through
やりなが
that
ら
and created the
きちんと
different
仕様を作って
specifications
それを
for
一
these
つずつク
elements
リ
to
ア
be
してい
put
くっ
in.
ていうのを
Slowly but
中盤以
surely,
降
I
は
did notice the response to the
続けて
changes that we had been
そこ
making.
からやっぱりグッドゲー
People
ム
were
の評
starting to
判
mention
は
that,
や
oh
っ
yeah,
ぱりQ14も良くなっていって
this is a good game.
プレイ
And the
ヤーも
number
ず
of
っと増え
players
続け
also
てい
have
った
been
のに
steadily,
少
more
しずつですね
slowly, but
あれは
steadily
僕らもすごい
increasing, which
励まされ
also
ま
was
した
great
やっぱりちゃん
emotional
と面白い
support
ものを
for
作っ
us.
ていけば
It was very motivating
みん
to
な
see
プレイ
that,
して
and it
くれ
made
る
us
っていう
relieve. As
数字
long
の
as
上
we're
から
making
よ
a
く見え
good,
たんで
solid game,
当時
people
の
will appreciate
7
that.
つ
The
一気
time
に
we
リリー
released
スされた
7
7
jobs
つの
at the
ジョ
same
ブ
time. Forgot what
8ナン
patch
バ
it
ー忘れちゃった
was.
けど7
It
つのジョブ
was
が
in
一遍
7
に
jobs
実
at
装
the
されたんです
same
けど
time. What?
たった一人のゲームデザイナーが作ったんで
There was one single game designer that was
The team
handling
had their
that.
sights set on
What? Hold up. Hold up. One designer put 7 jobs in the game in one patch for 1.0? Crazy. Yeah, and now they're doing it again. Things haven't changed a lot in that regard. Now with Evercold, they got one dev who is doing all the Evolve jobs design for all of them.
what needed to be changed and how they were going to do it. For the first time in years, they were feeling hopeful, and even better, players were finally starting to respond with positivity. But right as they were settling into this new reality and finding their rhythm, disaster struck.
What?
For 6 minutes, Japan shook. A 9.0 earthquake had struck 200 miles northeast of Tokyo,
Oh
and
my
a resulting tsunami
God.
devastated coastal regions. What followed was a humanitarian and infrastructural disaster that can be barely comprehended.
Oh my
While
God.
the country rallied to help those affected, Tokyo suffered aftershocks and frequent electrical blackouts. I asked Yoshida-san if he'd like to share how this had affected the team.
まあ東京も
Even if
そ
it
う
was
は
a
言っても
couple
すごい
hundred
揺れ
miles
たの
north of
で
Tokyo, we did feel a quake as
やっぱ
well.
り
Some people
まあ当
decided
日
it
は
was
ね
safer to
会社
stay
の方が
at
安
the
全だって言っ
office
て
so they could
あの
stay
帰らな
overnight
い
and
で
just continue to watch
ず
the
っとニュー
news.
スを見てる
And
っ
of
てい
course,
う
yes,
人
there
た
were
ちもい
family
たし
members that were affected.
やっぱり東
within
北に家族とかね親戚とか
our
いる
development
ス
team
タッ
as
フも
well.
当
So,
然
you
い
know,
た
at
の
that
で
point, I didn't feel
まあもう
that it
正直
was
言うともう開発ど
appropriate
ころ
to
ではなかったの
continue
は確かに
pushing
そうです
forward with
で開発なんか優先
development.
すべきじゃないと思うので
Because being a
やっぱりみんな
developer, they are
開
human
発者の前に
beings.
人なので
my God.
まあ日本中電
All
力
over
が足り
Japan,
な
electrical
く
power was
なっ
needed.
ていたので
You know,
ま
when
あ
we
本
thought
当に
about how we can
些
help,
細なのかもしれないけど
and it might not
サー
have
バー
made
を全部落とそう そうに些
such
細
a
なのかも
large
しれないけど
impact.
サーバーを
But just
全
our
部
way to
落とそう
contribute, we decided to power down the servers for a certain amount of time. We
まあ
thought, how
少しで
could
も
we
協力でき
show
る
our
ことがあれば
support
ていう
and
こ
to
とで
contribute toward the situation and to be of help.
サーバーを
We
一気
felt
に
sorry
止
for
め
our
ます
players,
ってい
but
う
we
話を
decided
して
to temporarily power down the servers.
そんな時期でしたね。ただ
So once we turned the power back on to our servers, we actually received, I actually received a few letters
したんですけど
from the players and letting me know that they were able to contact their friends
遠くにいる友
through
達
the realm
の
of Eorzea. Their
無事が
friends
確
actually
認
logged
でき
in
たエオルゼアがあっ
and
た
they
か
were
ら
able
電話も通じない
to confirm on their
そ
status when
連絡の
telephones
手
and
段がなか
whatnot
った
were not
とこ
available.
ろエオルゼアの中にログインしてきてく
They were
れたこ
able to
と
log
で
into Eorzea and they were able to
無事だっ
check
た
on
ってい
their
うのが分
friends
かった逆にその周りの人たちの情報っていうのも分かったってい
and
う
confirmed they were okay.
お話をいくつ
So
かいただいて
yes, if power is needed
まあ電力が足りなければね
We can contribute
当然そのサーバーなん
by
て落とせばい
powering
いか
down
な
the
と思うんですけ
servers,
ど
but at the
そうじゃ
same
ない限り
time,
は
also felt that keeping
続けるっていうことも
Eorzea going was also beneficial.
そのエオルゼアを維持しておくっていうこと
There
も
were actually comments that thanked
一
us
つ
for
のなん
keeping
かこうサ
Final
ポートな
Fantasy
のかなって思っ
XIV
た機会でもありましたねその時はだから続けて
up
くれ
and
てあり
running
がとうって
and
言
for
われたんですよ
continuing
その
operations.
ファイナルファンタジー14を開発で
Also,
まあ
from a
あと
development
は
standpoint, the
最
content of
も
the
大きかった
battle
の
that we're
は
going to
実はイ
face
フリートの次に戦う
after
ボスは
Free
リヴァイア
was
さん
actually going to be a
の予定で
Leviathan,
リ
which
ヴァ
is
イ
like
ア
a
さん
sea
かなりの
serpent.
速度で作ってたんですけど
So at that point, we decided no, there's no way we can
リ
release
リースなん
that
かできないっていう
content
話で
with this situation happening
だからイフリートの後
So we had to
モーグリ
quickly
が
change
実装されてるのはそれが理由です
to implement
急いで
the
モーグリ
Moogle
を
battle,
作り直した
and so we had to
というか
fix that
企画
so we could release that
し
content
直したの
instead.
でいやそん
I
な
don't think it was too
こと
difficult
は
to
なか
get
っ
to
たですよ
work.
みんなやっぱりそれ
Of
ぞれ
course, there
の
were people who couldn't come to work,
あの時期
and Square Enix itself had closed for a
まあ
few
会社に来れ
days.
ない人たちもまあ
And
何
so
日
there was
か
a
会社
period
も
of
休
time
み
we
にしてる
didn't
ん
go to
で
work.
ただどっちかっていうと
I think
そ
we were all
の
thinking about what we could do in order to help.
自分たちにできる
So that's when they had to make the Moogle battle really quickly. And now I'm remembering Koji's development panel from NA FanFest, where he said that they didn't have a lot of budget and they were really pressed for time. So they had him write all the obviously he wrote the lyrics for the Moogle battle, but then he also had to sing it for like 4 different Moogles. Like on the spot. And so that's him like trying to sound like 4 different Moogles in that song.
ことをやろうっていうみんな感じだった
There was
そう
a
じゃあ
point.
全員でできることをやろうっていうみんな感じだったそう
But
じゃあ
was there a
全員
point
で
in all of us
福島に行って
just
何か僕
going
らが活動することって意味があるのかあれだけたくさんの人
to
たちが
help?
僕らが
Hold on.
活自分た
Back
ち
up a little here.
ただどっちかっていうとその自分たちにできることをやろうっていうみんな感じだった
Was there a
そうじゃあ
point in all of us
全員
just
で
going to
福
Fukushima
島
and
に行って
jumping
何
in
か
there?
僕らが活動することって
So there was a flood
意
of
味が
people
あるの
going to Fukushima trying to help.
あれだけたく
And
さん
when
の
we
人たちが押し
considered
か
about
けて
it,
る
we
中
wanted
で
to provide an
だっ
environment
た僕らは
where
その
afterwards, when those people who were
なんだろう
affected
彼
by
ら
the
が
incident get a
落ち着いた
chance to
時
settle
に
down,
ゲームを楽しく遊べるように僕らは結局ゲーム作
they
るし
would
か
have a
能
comfortable
がないの
environment
で
in game.
まあゲームを作り続ける
Ultimately,
のは
what can we
結局
do?
何
Well,
よ
we
り
make
な
video
のかも
games,
ってい
so we
う
felt continuing to make games
こう
was
いう
what we
話
could
は
offer.
しなかったで
I
すけ
think
ど
that was sort of the
みんな
stance
そう
that we
い
were
う感じ
taking.
で
We didn't necessarily talk about it verbally, but that was the
復帰してきてま
stance
したよ
that we
仕事に
had as we returned to work. I think that's the right stance to take. Koji's like 4, all of the Moogles except like 1 in that song is all Koji. Yes.
Over the coming months,
The one who's female is not Koji, but all the others are Koji.
Over the coming months, the team would release patch after patch for 1.0. 1.17 introduced 8-player parties and more stable network infrastructure. 1.18 dropped in June 2011 and was a huge patch that made the game much more playable. Level caps lowered for story quests. It added grand companies, class adjustments, instance dungeons, and auto attack. Yes, would you believe this game still didn't have auto attack? It featured a more user-friendly map interface and also scrapped the controversial fatigue system.
And so we need to take this concept that Yoshida-san has created, make it fit with the current world, write stories around it, make the transition seem seamless, and then in the new world, make it so that there's still some connection with that old world that will be understood by those core players, but won't alienate new players. It won't be something like, oh, you didn't play that old, the stuff in 1.0, so you're going to be completely lost. Because we don't want to do that either. We want to get new players to come that didn't play the original one, and we don't want to have them have to play the original to understand this one. And so trying to work the story that way was, it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. We got to try a lot of things. We had a lot of freedom, then especially on the 1.x stuff, because in a sense, it would only be released, seen for a few months, and then it would be gone forever. And so, on one hand, that's really exciting because we can do whatever we want. We can create these crazy stories, have these crazy characters, all of these crazy situations, and go, balls to the wall. But on the other hand, we're working day and night on something that only a few thousand people are going to see and will be gone in 6 months. I really
crazy.
think, I look back at it now, I think we did a lot of our best work during that one point. And it's sad that no one is ever going to see that. Maybe, there's some videos up on YouTube where people can still go back and check them out. But a lot of, some of the best stories, some of the most crazy stuff went on during that 1.x period because it was pretty much no holds barred. Anything can happen. We had like crazy cults, and you had like, people from the Garlean Empire. There was like propaganda, giant dragons and machines, and it was just anything goes.
Sounds like he had so much fun doing it.
Situation there, and it was just really a lot of fun.
1.19 signified the 1-year anniversary. Players finally got personal chocobos, and in the distance, one light in the night sky burnt slightly brighter, a sign of things to come.
At the very first time, it was just some rumor between players. Oh, is it getting bigger? No, I don't think so.
This was also when Square Enix announced that an entirely new version of the game had been in development since January.
Wait, so they didn't say at first, like, that Dalamud was coming? It was just like a star in the sky. Seems like it's getting bigger. No one was told. No one was told. Were you there? Do you remember this? I'm sure there are some buns in the chat that actually were there for this. Yes? Oh my god. Oh my god. It gradually got closer and closer. So what were people saying? I look at the sky every now and then in 14. PTSD is real. Oh my god. What? Oh my god. This is so insane to me. You had no idea that they were getting ready to destroy the world. Why would you think that? That would be an insane conclusion to come to.
January, and that current players would receive copies of it for free. They also announced that players' character data and progress would be transferred to this new version, what they were then calling version 2.0. A roadmap for patches was outlined, and it was announced that monthly fees would be reinstated as of January 2012. As an incentive for players to keep playing while the fees were introduced, they announced Legacy Campaign, which rewarded players who paid for at least 3 months of service with permanently reduced monthly fees. Those players would also get an exclusive Chocobo mount, while as a thank you for their support during the redevelopment, their names would be featured in the credits of the new game.
What? Got your name in the credits? In 2011, October 14th, that's when we announced A Realm Reborn is coming. And we were going to create a completely new Final Fantasy XIV. And you have these people going, huh? Are you going to continue updating this? What's going to happen? It was so much fun. Oh my god.
1.2 was the final patch of 2011. It saw all the servers renamed, while the moon Dalamud now seemed larger in the sky.
Oh my god.
1.21 came in March 2012, introducing a new job system and 2 new dungeons. 1.22 followed in April. Dalamud grew closer, and now some players are beginning to have nightmares. Ominous dreams greet players who log into the game while at an inn. The community all the while trying to figure this out. Is the moon going to destroy the world? Then how will player data be?
What? You would log in and you've been having nightmares? Your character's having nightmares about the end of the world is coming?
Saved in to figure this out.
Oh my
Is the
God.
moon going to destroy the world? Then how will player data be saved in 2.0? They wouldn't have to wait long for answers. That summer, a trailer revealed that 2.0 would be titled A Realm Reborn, and Yoshida-san conducted numerous interviews explaining the future of the game and the features players can expect. On September 12, 2012, the final patch for 1.0 was released. The game updates to 1.23b, and with it comes an enormous Dalamud, its mechanical outer shell now in full view. Players now realizing that this world didn't have long left. On November 1st, 2012, a final in-game battle began. Square Enix made entry free for the final week of the game, while a haunting song can be heard playing on the wind across the entire realm. While the server struggled to deal with the load, players got together with their friends one last time, as the development team in Japan spammed enemies outside capital cities. One group of players outside of Golda has become legendary, attempting to protect the city with what we now call the Great Gobu Wall.
Right before Dalmud hit the
The Great Gubu Wall? This is so insane. This is so insane. There's a monument to the Great Wall in game today? Okay, we'll check that after the documentary is done. Okay, don't let me forget.
was there. We had to do some
Hold up, you said Urianger would randomly appear on the map riddling about the... At NA FanFest, Koji said that they had this weird character, Urianger, who he expected would die. And so he made him sound like really weird and like archaic and stuff. So he just tried to just make him really weird guy. At NA FanFest, the one that just happened like a few months ago. He's like, this dude's in every cutscene now. He's like in every trailer. It's like
Elzer. We had to do some chaotic situation to the existing world. So what we decided to do is to spawn the strong enemies at the near the main cities. Even when I popped the very strong, Manticore or the mobile or the giant monsters, players kill instantly.
Right.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah, just snap. So, oh Jesus! So you killed my monster again. So what we can do is just keep spawning the lots of monsters.
This is so crazy. You have Foxconn sitting there spawning manticores and like anything you can think of. Just to like attack you personally. And spamming as many monsters as possible.
And then in very late night when I was doing, keep spawning the monsters.
All day,
the
he's
one
spawning.
programmer just, I've never talked to him before, but just coming down to my desk and then just give me a bit of paper with some numbers, which numbers I can understand. This is the number of the certain monster.
Okay.
I can type in so that, I can spawn a very new, stronger monsters.
Right.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a program. So that was a very fun moment.
You're like,
This is a random programmer's like, oh no, I got you. We're gonna spawn something. Something so nasty. They're not gonna be able to fight it.
playing God.
At first, I felt like God. Hey, players, can you beat my monsters? But no. I was very weak God.
They were God.
Yeah, they were God.
So it was then, on
It's a
Sunday,
weak
November
God.
11th, 2012, just over a year after Final Fantasy XIV was originally launched, with Dalamud hanging in the sky, that the servers were finally turned off. And as they did, a trailer dropped, showing players what was to become of their old home.
Man. This is just legendary. Like, for everyone involved, for the players, for the devs, for the industry. But every end marks a new beginning.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you had something that not a lot of people liked, and everyone wanted to forget about it. So rather than, just taking that and doing it over, and just reimagining it, why not destroy that and start over? If we leave too much of that original core there, then it will just linger on as that kind of cancer that, will always bring us back to that failure. Why not just clean the slate? But on the other hand, and this is where, things kind of got complicated, is that, no matter how bad the reviews were and how many people bought the game but then left the game, there was still this core of players in both Japan and, Europe, North America, that were passionate about the game. In the state that it was, they were passionate about the game. They were passionate about the series and their characters that they had created and were now living in this MMO. And so, it would have been easy to just say, okay, bye guys, But if you do that, then you've basically alienated the only group that stuck with you, for all of those years when everyone else is slamming the game and talking about how bad it is. I mean, those guys were troopers. They would go on the forums. They were defending, the development team when a lot of times we didn't deserve defending. So that idea to wipe the slate clean, but not make it something completely new, make it something that was connected in some way to that, to the old game. The decision made by Yoshida-san to, okay, let's bring down Dalamud, destroy the planet, destroy the realm, but then bring it back. Figuring out a way to make that happen within the current story. Make it feel natural. Make it feel like that was always the plan. Was the biggest challenge, I think.
The team at Square Enix had worked themselves to the bone, not only recreating Final Fantasy XIV in A Realm Reborn, but also by dedicating time and money to ensuring that 1.0 players felt part of that story. The moon, Dalamud, had crashed into the world of Eorzea. That world was gone forever. And only one question remained. What was going to rise out of its ashes?
Yeah. It's so crazy. Fun fact, Zep. The row paladin you meet, you cannot use his face as a sea wolf. It's a Hellsguard only face. And later, I believe they got rid of the black marking on his nose, like all Hellsguard have, to make him unique. Oh, really? Yeah, when he said, even when we didn't deserve being defended. Look. No matter how bad things are, I mean, you still have to talk to them with some respect. Like, shit. Man. That's why the dev team is a phoenix in their logo. Yeah, it's why, like, the phoenix is very much associated with FF14 and, like, the Rising event, which isn't that this month? Later this month, I think. We recently had a Phoenix mount as the reward for that, because the Rising event commemorates the beginning of ARR, and it's about rising from the ashes. It's literally about, it's a Phoenix that should not have been possible. Like, this is a stuff of myth. This is a stuff of legend, man. This is insane. During the Rising event, the faint echoing version of answers is what was heard as the servers shut down. What? There's actually another part. We're not done. That was part 2. There is still one more part of this series. So buckle in. There is a part 3. Yes. This is so cool. If you have a Meteor account, you still pay a cheaper subscription even today. So it really is permanently cheaper. Wow. Wow. What a unique moment in gaming history to be part of, where they created all this incredible content just for it to be destroyed out of respect for the players who were there supporting it and making it possible for them to create a Realm Reborn. Kind of makes you want to go easier on Realm Reborn, doesn't it? I mean, damn, like we are really hard on a Realm Reborn because it's a rough experience. Okay, I know, but hearing this, it kind of makes me want to give them a little more slack for it being a bit jank. It's because the Realm Reborn, compared to all the expansions, makes it rough. Very true. Very, very true. Imagine the burden Yoshi P and the team had with reviving 14. At the time, he didn't know we'd still be here in 2026. It is absolutely crazy what they were able to do with just like the determination, the dream. If you have a dream in your heart, you can do it. Bringing back an MMO, not just any MMO, an MMO that is now widely considered the best of all time. The GOAT. This is insane. ARR, not so bad. Little more understanding and appreciative of AR. But look, for me, like I said, I started in Heaven's Ward, and I liked Realm Reborn. I liked it. Realm Reborn is what hooked me into the game when I expected that I would hate it. I really enjoyed the story, and as a person who really, really appreciates good creative writing, I just fell in love with how much personality every NPC I talked to had. I think that was the main thing that really hooked me in. I started in Limsa, and it was just such a vibrant, like, colorful place, and um, really just felt so alive and crazy. I just loved it. And I also loved meeting the Scions and like feeling like, oh, we're part of this secret society, and I was just loved exploring the world, and meeting the Sylphs was a big, big deal for me. And so like it took me only about 3 days before I realized like I was hooked for life pretty much, and there was nothing that was gonna stop me from finishing the game. Uh Getting to Heaven's Ward, and then after that I started raiding, and here we are 10 years later. Oh god. How does this happen? But they did a pretty damn good job, I thought, under this kind of stress. Are we ready for the next part? Do we want to take a little stretch break before we begin part 3? Probably, yeah. Probably, yeah. Quick little 5-minute break. Maybe run some ads and stuff, so it doesn't interrupt the next part. I think Square Enix gave too much of the profit to the shareholders and not enough to the development team. When? You mean like when they were doing 1.0? As a current Sprout, I'm actually really liking ARR, and I'm excited to see where the story and the other expansions are leading up to. That's how I felt. Bamboo. That was me. I know. I had the exact same experience as you. Everybody's like, wait till you get past Realm Reborn, it gets so much better. And I'm like, damn, I like it right now. So I felt the same way. I started 14 after Heaven's Ward had been out for a while. I think it was by the time I got to level 60 or max level, it was the 3rd tier of Alexander was out, I think. So I guess I started not too long after Heaven's Word released, but I took my time leveling, and at the time I wasn't really hooked into the community or anything at all. I was just I had just lost my I quit my job that I had previously to that, and I had a lot of free time on my hands. I was going through a lot mentally, and I needed time to recover mentally from what I was going through, and FF14 was there for me at that time, and it was such a wonderful escape. A Zepla Reborn. Actually, yes. Yes. So the thing I find interesting, I wonder how many people were enjoying ARR, but their friends were hounding them that it's so bad that then now they think it's bad. Because new players get hounded that Realm Reborn isn't good a lot. It's absolutely possible that if you're constantly told something isn't good, that can give you an expectation that isn't fair. That can set you up. You can like be ready to not like it before you've given it a chance. And that's why I'm usually really careful, even with story I didn't like about Dawn Trail. I usually always try to qualify what I'm saying with a, hey, but you might like it. Because I liked Realm Reborn and people said I wouldn't like it. So it kind of goes both ways, don't it? Okay, anyway, it's time for part 3. So far, this has been an absolutely amazing documentary. Everybody should watch it. Everybody needs to watch this because it is like such an insane, unbelievable, inspiring story. It's like, feels like the hand of fate on this game, y'all. Feels like the work of destiny to have these specific people in this specific place with this kind of a dream that didn't make any sense to anyone, and yet it just felt like something that had to happen. It shouldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened, but it did, and it is still happening. Crazy. Let's start part 3.
Hello and welcome to the final part of our fantastical tale. We sit on the eve of the rebirth of Square Enix's new world. Almost exactly 3 years after the original catastrophic launch, Eorzea was going to be getting a second chance. But this time, everybody knew it wasn't going to be getting a third.
The new world.
Once Dalamud had struck, Yoshida-san moved the 1.x patch team into the main team working on A Realm Reborn, taking lessons from contemporary MMOs, feedback from players over the 1.x phase, and elements that worked from the original version. They crafted a modern Final Fantasy XIV set in a vibrant world that reflected the energy of the franchise. And for Yoshida-san and some other members of the team, this was going to be a very public thing, as they took the short train ride from the office in Shinjuku to Shibuya to take part in a very special launch event.
その渋谷のイベントへ向かうために朝電車に乗ってた。で、少しリハーサルを当然やらなきゃいけないので、まあ少し早めに家を出て、いよいよ。
Crap.
Very special launch event.
Okay.
その渋
As
谷
I was
の
heading that event
イ
in
ベントへ向か
Shibuya,
う
I took
た
a
め
train
に
that
朝
morning.
電車に乗ってた。で、少しリハーサルを当然やらなきゃいけないの
Of
で、
course,
ま
there
あ
were
少し
some
早めに
rehearsals to be done
家を出て、
beforehand, so I
い
left
よ
my
いよ
house early.
発
And I
売
was
日か
thinking to
って思いな
myself,
がら、
oh yeah, we're about to
電車に
release.
乗っていたら
At this time,
ちょう
I
ど
was
そのドア
standing
の
by the
近く
doors
に
of the
立
train.
ってたんですよ。そしたらその
And I
ド
was
アの
standing
僕
to
は
the
右側に
right
立ってたん
side
で
of the
左側
door,
に
and
立
then
って
to
い
my
た
left,
男の子、多分大学生ぐらいだと思う
I
んだ
saw
け
this
ど、
college student in
緑の綺麗
green-colored
な
clothes.
あの
I remember.
男の子がすっと
Then
僕
he
のところ
walked
に
closer
寄
to
ってき
me,
て、
and in a very small voice, he
小声
said,
で吉田さんですよね。
"Mr. Yoshida."
あの
He told
本
me,
当に発売おめでとうございますって
"I really want to congratulate you
プレイヤー
on
で
the
すって言われ
release.
たんですよ。
I'm a player."
で、
So that happened.
そんな
Then
状況でまあ
we then get to the
そのイ
event,
ベントを
and
始
we were all
め
on
て、
stage.
で、まあ
As
み
we
んな
talked
で
about how we
その
got there, the
まあここま
background
で
of all
来
the
る
events that happened
話
up
をまあ
until
ステー
now.
ジでしていて、最後まあマイ
And
クが渡っ
finally,
て
the
話
mic
をしようとしたら
was
そ
passed
の
on
朝
to me. So I
そう言わ
recalled
れ
what
た
happened
こ
in
と
the
を
train that
ちょっと
morning,
思い出
and I
しちゃっ
just
て、
I had to pause.
いやいろいろあったな
When I
ー
thought
って
about
思ったら
what we've gone through, I was
言
at a
葉に
loss
詰まっ
for
ちゃった
words
瞬
for a
間にその来
moment.
てたプレイヤーたちお客さんたち
And
が
that's when the crowd started cheering me
こ
on.
う
Oh my
頑
god,
張れって言
just
わ
hang
れ
in
ちゃっ
there.
て、もう
Oh my god, dude. I would have cried.
昨日もちょっと話したよう
As
に
I mentioned in a
発
previous
売しても
interview.
それが
And
Goal
MMO's,
じゃない。
MMO's launch is
スター
not
トな
the
の
end
で
of the development, it's the
なんかあんま
beginning
り
of a
干渉
long
に浸ってる
marathon.
暇なんて本来ないんだけど
There's no time for being absorbed
思わ
in
ず
an
こう
emotional
プレイヤーに
recollection,
こ
but
う
just
頑
being
張れ
there,
って言われたせい
pausing,
で泣け
the
てきちゃっ
audience
て
cheering me on. It got me. I got a little teary-eyed. It's a little embarrassing to
恥ずかしか
say.
ったですね。
運営を続けていこうと思います。本当にありがとうございます。そして
Oh my
これから
God,
も
dude.
どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Insane. Almost 3 years after its original launch, Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn was released on PC and PlayStation 3 on August 27th, 2013. Behind the scenes, Square Enix had suffered a disastrous 2013 fiscal year, resulting in a loss of around $105 million. They could not afford another failure. Holy shit.
Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn is a great MMORPG experience on both PC and PlayStation 3. Grounded in tradition and learning from the lessons of the games that preceded it, it thrives on the strengths of its excitingly varied and flexible class system and highly mobile combat.
The game's rough launch is mostly over, but you still might have to contend with login errors. But this is, by and large, a very good massively multiplayer game, filled with lots of stuff to do, gorgeous vistas to behold, and lots of adorable narrative touches.
The challenge ahead for Square is to achieve the delicate balance of questing, dungeons, and fates for the second half of the leveling process, as well as it has the first. But considering the stunning reversal of fortune that's
Grindy fates? Ooh. What do you mean? Oh. What do you mean by that? They'll fix that. I'm sure they'll fix that. Yeah,
Square has achieved here, it seems like anything is possible.
It is great.
So
It
what
is
was
great.
it like then on your end after, you know, years of working on this game, having the launch,
They'll patch
basically
it.
being required to work on two separate games at the same time, patching one and then building an entirely new one, almost in secret for a large part of it, to then see, like, what was it like reading reviews and reading message boards when people were like, oh fuck, they did it?
They did it.
Yeah, I mean, we were just as surprised. I mean, not as surprised because again, it was definitely different. You know, in those months before releasing the original, I mean, I knew that the game wasn't in good shape, and so it's kind of, you're lying to yourself, trying to say, no, this is going to be good. They're going to like this part. They're going to like this part. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But with A Realm Reborn, playing, it's like, this is a really good game. I mean, you're playing it, like, enjoying it, you know. But there's still that little bit in the back of your mind that's like, you know, and it's what we were told, is that once the game has been reviewed, even if you try to rebuild it, everyone's going to remember the old. They're not going to look at the new. And Metacritic never forgets. When 14 came out, the original, and it was maybe people were like, okay, I think, you know, I'm a hardcore offline Final Fantasy guy, but I'll try out this new one. But then, okay, it's terrible. See, I knew it. It's terrible. They're not going to want to come back for a second time. It's like, no, I already played that. It was terrible. And so there was just this feeling that even if it's a really great game, no one's going to play it. They're just going to like brush it off because it's the bad Final Fantasy Online that I tried, you know, in beta and it sucked, so I'm not going to play it anymore. And so yeah, we were afraid of that. But then, wow, it was just, I mean, servers breaking on, not breaking, but like servers getting so packed with people in those first few days, and then seeing the reviews come in, and you know, they saved, and then they start saying things like, you know, you saved the franchise, and you know, you saved the series, and I don't know, remembering what it was like, you know, at their launch of 1.0, and then just being able to, because who gets to re-experience a bad launch? It's something you don't get in the game industry. And
especially in MMOs.
And we did, and it was a great experience to be able to say, it was just that vindication of like all of that extra work that we had put in. It was what Yoshida-san had promised us. If we worked hard and we did this right, that in a year and a half's time, you know, we can do this. And a lot of people didn't believe him, and you know, a normal person probably wouldn't believe him. But I mean, maybe that's why we were able to do it, because all of the abnormals remained and made something that was, you know, literally impossible happen.
やっぱり
Because the servers were so crowded, we saw people not being able to play.
遊べない
They had gone out of their
せ
way
っ
to
かく
purchase the
パッケー
game,
ジをお金を出して買って
but
き
they
たのに
can't play.
ゲームが
That's
遊べないとは
ridiculous.
何
And of
事だ
course,
と
it's
オ
an
ンライ
online
ンゲー
game.
ムは当然サー
You
バー
have
に
to
繋
be
がらな
able
いと遊べないの
to
で
connect to the servers in order to play.
なんか評価
Or even
とか
worrying
以前
about
の問題
reviews.
で
The fact
その買っても
we're
ら
in
っ
a
たのに
state, we're
なんか
creating
評
a
価とか以前
situation
の問題で
where people
買っ
bought the
てもら
game
っ
but
たのに
couldn't
遊
play
べな
was
い状
shocking
況を
to
作っ
me.
てること
We
自体
didn't
が
anticipate so many people
その
coming to play the game, so that of
僕に
course
と
was
っては
one of
ショ
the
ックまあショ
contributing
ック
factors.
あんなに
Or I could
来る
even
とはもち
react
ろ
to
ん思
some
っ
of
て
the
なかったっていうの
reviews.
も
I think I was
要
more
因ですけ
focused
ど
on trying to rectify this
だ
situation
から評価云々
of
の前
allowing
にまずちゃ
people
んと
to log
ゲーム
in.
に接続して遊べ
So
る
we
よ
were
うにしなきゃ
addressing
って
that
い
issue
う
the
こ
first
とばっ
month
か
and a
り
half or so.
が当時の1ヶ月半ぐらい出荷を停止した
And
り
we
とか
paused shipping
販売を停
units
止
or
したり
selling the
とか
game. That's about all I can remember doing at the time.
それしか全然覚えてないですね
With most other genres, this would be the part of the story where we fade to black and roll credits, but such luxuries don't exist in the world of massively multiplayer online games. In fact, after the release of A Realm Reborn, or 2.0 as they call it internally, the team applied the same content-rich patching schedule they had undertaken with 1.0, releasing a significant 2.x patch to the game every 3 to 4 months. Over the
Great
next 2 years,
patch.
these patches progressed the story of
Ninja
AR, added
added.
in epic raids and new modes such as 72-player PvP battles. But just like before, while the team was working on these 2.x patches, they were concurrently building an updated version of the game, the first expansion pack, Heavensward.
And they're making freaking Heavensward.
4年の
I think it was 2014,
10月
October or maybe September time. And some of the
9
dev
月10
team
月ぐらいかな
members
開発チー
came
ム
up to me and said,
にも吉田さん申請した
Yoshida-san,
ら
you told us it would
楽
get
に
a
なる
little
って言ってませんでした
easier
っ
after
け
Realm Reborn launched.
バカ MMO
I said,
これ
no,
だけ
for an
巨大
MMO
な
that's
規模の
really at
MMO
biggest
は
scale is what we're trying to
最初の
accomplish.
エクスパンションパ
The
ック出
first
す
initial
ところ
sprint
ま
is
で
going to
が
be all the way
スター
up
ト
to
ダッ
the
シュ
release
だ
of the first expansion. Oh
ごめんね
god.
って
Sorry. Oh my god. Oh no.
Well,
Oh
I
no.
mean, it was, what was in our minds was, you know, not having another letdown. Don't take for granted that the rebuild was a success. We can't just expect our users to say, oh, they're going to release expansion, so we can do whatever we want, and doesn't matter, they'll buy it, ha ha ha. You know, there was none of that sense. One good thing that came out of the failed launch is that it's instilled into, you know, the developers, all of the developers' minds that, you know, we have to always strive to be better. We can't, you know, let our guard down. It's in everyone's mind, and it's always lurking back there. We don't want to repeat that, and because of that, everyone is like always on the top of their game.
Is that still there even now? Because it's been 3.5 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, the old guard, yes. We all have that. We all have that.
They're
But
scarred
it's not
for
all
life.
the old guard anymore. People have moved off onto other projects. Some people have left the company to go freelance, explore new opportunities. A lot of new people have come in. And so a lot of people, don't remember what happened in 1.0 because they
you
weren't
summer
there.
children.
That's right. Exactly. And us old timers can tell them, well, back in my day, we did, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And sometimes it does feel like that. There's always the chance that you can just get too full of yourself and not do 100%, not learn from your mistakes, and that the community was like, no, we're done. And we were lucky to be given a second chance. We were really lucky to have that second chance actually succeed. I don't know, third time, I don't know if I want to press my luck any further. It's not a good, fun situation to be in.
No, I bet
the
not.
things that I've learned over these past 7-8 years working on 11, the original and the new and the expansions, is something that I'm going to carry with me to all future projects, as it will with, all of the other devs that have done that. A piece of that Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, a piece of that, ARR and the expansions will be with all of them, and hopefully they'll be able to use that in all their future projects.
Heavensward was another win for the team. Critically praised and loved by the community, it helped push cumulative subscriptions for the game beyond 5 million. In fact, the amount of players in Eorzea has kept rising.
That's when I started.
当然上がり下がりはあります。上がり下がりをし
Of
な
course,
がら
there's
少しずつ
fluctuation,
逃げ上がっていくって
definitely
いうのが、
slowly rising in
あん
numbers
ま
as
り
well.
他の MMO で
I feel
は
that it may be
ない曲線なのか
atypical
もし
for
れ
an
ないですけど、
MMO to be trending
とに
like
か
that.
くゲームデザイ
With
ン
Final
で
Fantasy
ず
XIV's game
っと
design,
こ
I
の
never want
ファ
to
イナル
make
ファンタ
it
ジー
so
14
that
っていうゲームをプレイし続けていなければ
you have to play 14
ついていけなくなる
continuously and have
と
to
か
log in every
そう
day.
一度やめてしまったら戻れないっていう
I
ふう
want
に
to
絶対に
avoid
ならないよう
forcing
にっていう
people to play
の
because
が
everyone is so
14のゲー
busy.
ムデザインの根幹にある。なぜなら今本当にみんな忙しい。一つのゲ
And I
ー
don't
ムだ
think
けに
everybody should log in
なん
every day
なんだろう
and put
毎
in
日
the
毎
time
日
to play.
なんだログインし続けられるわけじゃない。
Could.
それはもともと
Even a
MMO が
big
大好き
fan
な
of
僕
MMOs
ですら
like
そう
me.
なので。そう考えた
So I
時
think
に
it's
遊びたい
okay
時
that
に
people
遊
come
んで
back when there's a
メ
major
ジャーアップデー
update
ト
to
が
play
来たら
through
一
it
気
at
に遊ん
once.
で少し
Play the
落ち着いた他のゲー
content
ムを
and
遊
then
んだり
eventually wean out or slow down and
家
maybe
族
play
サービ
other
スをした
video
り
games.
でまたメジャーが来たら
Spend
そ
some
れでいい
quality
と思う
time with your family.
これからの
Like
MMO はそう
moving
じゃないと多
forward,
分やっていけない
MMOs have to be like that, or
やっ
else
ぱ
it
り
won't
大
stand
き
a
く
chance. Then once an
ゲームに
expansion
本
comes
分の
out,
新しい体験が来
that's
た
when
時
it has
全
as
員
much
集合して
content as a brand new
最新の
standalone
ファイナルファンタジーを
RPG.
プレイ
So
し
we
な
all
がら
come back and enjoy the
まあそれ
latest
が
Final Fantasy
基本ベ
together.
ースにある
It's the kind of
ので
game design that
や
we've
っぱり
always kept in
その
mind
パッ
as
チ
the
の間で
fundamental
上がり
base.
下がり
There's
ます
ups and downs with
ただ
patches,
評
but
判を聞いて
people hear the
ずっ
good
と増え
reviews
続け
and
てい
join.
くっていうのが理想
So
だ
I
と
do
思ってる
believe keeping these numbers
14はそれ
increasing
で
is the ideal.
やれてきてる
14 has been going on like that.
ただもっ
I'd
ともっ
love
と遊ん
for
でほし
even
い
more
たくさんの人に
people to come and
と思っ
play.
てるのでチャレンジを
Always
ま
want
だ
to
まだ続
continue
けたい
taking
と思
on
う
challenges and pushing ourselves even further.
The latest expansion pack, Stormblood, comes hot on the heels of 2 years worth of 3.x patches, which have added fresh storylines and features to Heavensward. With it comes increased level caps, new dungeons, jobs, raids, zones, and some changes to the battle system. Stormblood will also mark the end of the game's lifetime on the PlayStation 3, but of course in the intervening years, the team has since launched the game on the PlayStation 4. Final Fantasy XIV had been a financial disaster for Square Enix. Subscriptions were turned off for most of the 1.x era, and the company poured significant funds and trust into the team tasked with its rebirth. The importance of this franchise to the company is mirrored by its importance to its players and of course the development team. This is a group of people who have dedicated years into ensuring that this game came back from the dead. Yoshida-san says he only needs about 4 hours sleep a night. I asked him about his social life. He says he doesn't really remember anything except work. He speaks
4 hours sleep is fine. Social life? Remember your child and your wife.
fondly of those players that stuck with the team,
Oh
those
my God.
warriors of light that were saved at the end of 1.0. His respect for fans of this game and all Final Fantasy fans is clear to see. The realm of Eorzea is totally different now. A bustling, vibrant place full of stories, quests and adventurers. A world expanded upon even more with the release of Stormblood. But the old world, the story of 1.0, the fall of Dalamud and the people who survived the cataclysm will always live on. Those who were there, be them player or developer, will forever be bound together by that experience.
Yeah, it's not like I sleep either.
Instead of a lot of games will
Let's
create,
be real.
you know, these myths for their games, we have a myth that actually happened, but because it happened so long ago and only a few people saw it, most of the new players now, they look at back and it's like, did it really happen? What is this battle with the White Raven and Riven Road? And it was just this grand battle, you know, all different levels and this, you know, dimensional rifts, and it sounds like an actual myth, but it's like, it's not just a story we made up for this, you know, it's actually happened.
It
And,
actually
you know,
happened.
as the game progresses and new players come on, I mean, it's further and further back in history that this
Right.
this really cool thing happened. And so, I mean,
It's
that
a real
VideoWorks
myth.
cutscene, I mean, I remember, watching it and just like, you know, goosebumps all over. I mean, I'm watching with all of these other, you know, like the directors and producers and, you know, the director of the visual works, and we're all sitting there and they're all watching it, and I'm just watching them like I've got like tear in my eyes. Yeah, it's dust. And
Wow.
I mean, it was that powerful because it kind of encompassed not only, you know, what the character went through, it was an image of what we as developers had done as well. At the beginning, we're all, you know, let's do this. It's going to be an adventure. We're like that first cutscene where, you know, with the party that goes out and they have their guild leave and they go out and they fight the Morble, and that's us at the beginning. And then the release hits you and you're down. I mean, then you have that cutscene where it's just like everyone's working together to make something new, and then it failed, but no, it didn't fail, and you're just, and all of the memories of, you know, the past years, the good and the bad kind of all come together, and, you know, just so overwhelming. And that's, you know, pretty much the reaction then when we finally released it to the public that we got. I mean, so many people, I just remember the forums, checking out the forums that day. I mean, people were just like, I've been in tears all day, I've watched it 10 times, and to see that, you know, that everyone felt the same way. It wasn't just, you know, the development team, it's that you have this hardcore group of very, very loyal fans that, you know, they believed in the game, we believed in the game, we stuck together, we were able to build, you know, this new thing that's not just for us, but it's opening up the doors for a whole new audience. But, you know, remember, we were there first. We're the ones that, you know, that stood by it, and we're the ones that did this. And, you know, they have the pride in that. Those players, those warriors of light that were, you know, the before Meteor guys, you know, Yoshida-san in interviews will always talk about, you know, those people that supported us and we couldn't have done it. I mean, it sounds so cliche. Oh, we couldn't have done it without your support. Literally, we could not have done it. Literally, we could not have done it. I mean, if there was, those people hadn't remained, we just would like, no, let's forget it. We're not going to do it. We wouldn't have put as much effort in. It would have just been, okay, yeah, whatever, let's just free to play, you know.
Back when, you know, 1.0 came out,
Wow.
and could you have imagined that 3-4 years later you'd be in a fan event with thousands of people in Germany?
No, I don't really imagine that. Yeah, I mean, one day, I mean, yeah, we were, I mean, always saying one day we want to run a big fun event. We were, I mean, actually dreaming to have a huge fun festival in the future at that time. But actually, yeah, we made it. So yeah, that was really great.
Some dreams come true.
Yes, yes.
まあただ自分
I've
ス
been
クエ
with the
ア
Square
長い
for
ん
a
です
while.
けれども、
Sorry if this
あ
sounds
んまり
kind of
変な言い
strange.
方ですけど、こう会社に対して貴族意識
I
という
don't
か、
really
なん
feel
か
a
そこ
sense
は
of
あまり
being
なくて
tied down or belonging to the
やっぱり
company.
ゲーム作る
After all, when creating
誰と一緒
games,
に
it's
作
very
るかが
important
す
who
ご
you
く
work with.
大切
This
で、そこが
project,
一
I
番
was
重
able to
要
work
だ
with
なと思
people
ってい
I wanted
て
to work with.
今回のプロジェクトは本当に
We
組
were
んで
able
み
to
たいという
accomplish
スタッフと組
something
んで
really
すご
big.
く大きなことがやれて
I was
す
looking
ごい
forward to it.
楽
Had
し
fun
かっ
doing
た
it.
し楽しいですねって感じではい
It's a challenge, but a lot of fun.
まあ 強調したいことがあるとすれば、その
I mentioned on our
初
first
日
day
に
of interviews,
1.0 の話をしてましたけ
we're
ど、
talking about 1.0. It wasn't a
誰か一人
mistake of just a
そ
single
の
person.
もしくはデベロップメントチームがということでは
Or
なく
was
て、
it
や
the
っぱり
development team's
今で
problem?
も本当に会
But
社
it was
自
a
体の大きな
company-wide mistake. All of the
過ち
bad elements
が
came out
その
with Final
全て
Fantasy
全て
XIV.
の悪い部分がファイナルファンタジー14で出てしまったっていう、そのまあそれはリリースって意味の
And
デ
I
ー
don't
タでは
mean
なくて、
release
そ
when
れ
I
が全
say
て爆
came
発
out.
したの
It
が
was more about all these bad
Final
elements
Fantasy
converging with
の
the
オリ
release
ジナル
of the
バージョン
original
だったんじゃ
Final
ないかっ
Fantasy
て
XIV. Yeah,
本
that
当
makes
に
sense.
強く思
I
ってる
strongly
の
believe
で、
that was the case.
でも
And then
今
we were able to release
そ
Final
のまあ
Fantasy
14の
15.
リバンプを会社全体としてやって15がリリースできて、
And through
それに
that,
は
I believe the
少しずつ変わって
company's
きた
starting
と
to
思ってる
change little by
し、
little.
もっと変
And
わ
I
らなきゃいけない
feel
と思
we
って
should
る。
change even more. Perhaps some people may have started
もしかすると少し安心してる
to
人
feel
た
a
ちも
bit
今
more
いるのか
stable
も
at
しれ
this
ない
point,
け
but I
ど、
feel we should
まだ
still
まだ変わらな
change
きゃいけないと
more.
思ってるので、なんか
So
そ
I
のあたり
hope
が
we
う
were able
ま
to
く
convey
伝
that
わってると
through our interviews.
いいなとは思います。これはなんだろう、スクエアエニックスってい
Some
う
people
会社が
expect a
作
lot
るゲームに
from
期待して
games that are
もらって
being
る
created by
人が
Square
世界中
Enix.
にたくさんい
People
る
from
と
all
思うん
over
で
the
すけ
world.
ど、
I was like that too, but some people believe Square Enix has not
僕
reached
も
its
そうだ
full
ったから、
potential. I
で
know there
も
are
まだ
people who
まだ
believe
スク
Square
エ
Enix
アエ
can
ニッ
do
クスって
even
こ
better.
のレベルじゃないじゃん、もっと上いけるじゃんって思ってるくれてるはずなので、
And so in order to do that,
その
we
た
have
め
to
にはもっ
change
と
and
変わ
take
らな
on
きゃいけ
even
ない
greater
し、チャレンジ
challenges.
もしなきゃいけないと思ってるので、そういった
This part too,
要
I
素
hope
も
I was able to
今回
convey
の
this
そ
through
の
our
お
conversation.
話でうまく伝わってくれると嬉しいか
I'll
なと
say
は
that is our
思います。
intention.
僕
I
ら
want
は
to
そういう
make
つ
sure
も
our
りでやっ
message
て
is
ますって
getting
い
out
う
there,
メッセージ
even
が
if a little at
少
a
しでも
time.
出ていけばいいなとは。プレイヤ
So
ー
of
の皆
course,
さんと
if
会
players
社
or
が
the
望め
company
ば
desire
そ
for
う
me
な
to
ってると
continue
思い
to
ます
create
し、
with Final Fantasy XIV, I'll do my best.
プ
But
レ
of
イヤーの
course,
皆さんや
if the players in the
会社が
company
他のゲーム
desire
を
for me to work
作
on
れ
another
って
project,
望ん
I
で
could
くれれ
potentially
ば
work
他の
on
ゲーム
that.
作ってるかもしれないですし、
Or if they
両方
decide
一
I
緒
should
に
do
同時に
both
やってるかも
projects
しれないし、
simultaneously, I would probably have to
僕
do
は
that.
少なくとも
At
ス
the
クエアエ
very
ニックスって
least,
今会社の
I belong to Square Enix as a member of staff.
スタッフで自分の会社
And
な
I
わけ
do
ではな
not
い
run my
の
own
で、
company. So what the players
やっぱ
expect
プレイヤー
from
の
Square
皆さん、
Enix
ファン
and
の
how
皆さんが
corporate
スクエアエ
views
ニック
this
ス
is
に何を期
very
待するのかっ
important.
ていうの
That's
を
not to
会
say
社
I
が
don't have
ど
any
う考
games
え
I
るか
want
だ
to
と
create on my
僕は思っ
own.
てるんで、まあもちろん自分で
But
作っ
if
て
I
みたい
wanted
ゲ
to
ームは
make
ない
what
わ
I
けじゃも
wanted,
ち
I
ろんな
feel
いで
it's
すけど、
fine to leave the corporate situation and start
まあ
up
好
my
きな
own
ものを作り
company.
たいならね、会社辞め
However,
て自分で
as
会
long
社
as
作
I
って
am
作れば
wanted,
と
I
思
will
っちゃう
give
ん
it my
で、
best.
まあ望まれる限りは
That being said, I feel like now is a
頑張ろう
good
と思い
time
ま
to
すけど、
start thinking
まあ
about
そろそろね、プロデュー
if
サーとデ
somebody
ィレク
can
ター
take
の
on
どっち
even
かは
just the
誰かやってくれんね
producer
えかなって
side or the
思い
director
ますけ
side
ど
of my job. Hey, how's that going for you? I saw this was from 9 years ago. Some, yeah, some executives like, ooh, at the same time as you do 14? Got it. He never
The tale
slept
of the
since.
death and rebirth of Final Fantasy XIV Online is a cautionary tale in corporate hubris. It's a story about the power of humility, respect, and unity. A fun story for those of us who knew nothing about it, cherished times for those who were fortunate enough to be there when it all happened, and a wonderful reminder of something we come across so often in life, the idea that reality can often be even more amazing than the fantasy.
But the fantasy is the reality. If you believe it, and they did believe it, and I believe in them. You said, kinda how I feel. Sure, I play both WoW and Final Fantasy, but with WoW, I push keys and raid in Prague. But in FF, I live in the world. I smile when my character crawl out of the bed in the inn. Like he's been waiting for me all day, for me to come home from work so we can kick monster butts. FF feels like you're part of something, like your character has a life in the game. That's my experience so far. That's a really beautiful sentiment, and I agree. I think it's just time spent over the journey with your character and the time time put in through that continuous story that we all share, like we all go through in the same order, and we've all experienced it in a fairly similar way. It's just has more continuity than I think most other games. Wow. What a fantastic documentary. I knew this was a crazy story, but I didn't know half of it about what an impossible dream it was to even conceive that you could fix the disaster that it had been. How absolutely no one believed that Yoshi P could even pull it off. And because he really wanted to, he found a way and everybody banded together. I love that Koji said only like the abnormals were left. All the normal people left. Only abnormal people remained. They were crazy enough to think that it could actually work. And in spite of the odds, it did. This is before, yeah, this was at the beginning of Stormblood when this came out. And they don't even know that soon Shadowbringers will come out and Endwalker. Insane. Wow. I honestly think 14's failure has become its strength, as Koji said. Most games don't really have the chance to launch twice. Normally when you fail once, you fail for good. But the fact they survived taught them a lot.